Welcome, everybody. I feel really loud. I know. What time is it? No, oh, wait 1 minute. I think I gotta wait 1 minute. What time do you have? Act, Vernon's annotated civil statute, Article 6252-17, that the city of Smithfield will conduct a council meeting on July 8th, 2024 at 6 p.m. at the City Hall located at 317 Main Street, Smithfield, Texas, 78957. I call this meeting to order. And at this time, I want to take a moment to remember some amazing people who are no longer here with us. Mr. Hennessy, Mr. Shaler, and many other folks who have made a lasting imprint on our community and have also passed on. Please remember each and every one of them in your prayers. Thank you. Councilman Jenkins.
If y'all pray with me, please. Father, we thank you for this day and the blessings that you've bestowed upon us. We thank you for the rain that we've had over the last week. Please keep the people that are in the path of the hurricane safe and help our first responders in every way that you can so that they can respond correctly and safely. Please bless this meeting and bless us to have clear minds and clear hearts. Everything we do is beautiful in your eyes and that we make good decisions. It's in your son's name that we pray. Amen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank y'all for having us. I don't know if Keep Smith Beautiful has ever given y'all a report of the stuff that we do, because we do get some money from y'all. So I wanted to kind of fill y'all in on some of the things that we do. Some things go noticed and some things are kind of unnoticed. We kind of blend into the background, but it takes a lot of people. Like Robert says, it takes a village. So first of all, Keep Smithfield Beautiful was founded in 1985 by the Smithfield Garden Club. Renee Blasky, I don't think was mayor then, but she was the president of the Smithfield Garden Club at the time. We are a nonprofit. We have a lot of support from the city, from LPAA. We have support from Keep Texas Beautiful, Keep America Beautiful, the cultural district. There's a lot of pieces and parts that go to helping us do what we do. And we have a Silver Star status right now. We got that last year. We had been just in good standing. We've bumped up to Silver Star status, which means that we have outstanding efforts in enhancing the quality of life and environmental sustainability. It signifies a higher level of engagement and initiatives. And as you may or may not know, we have been doing some extra things this year. Our goals and purposes is to reduce litter and waste, to improve the awareness of local sustainability, or sustainability resources. We want to improve environmental education and engagement. We want to increase the beauty and enjoyment of Smithville. We want to protect the ecosystems and natural resources that we have here. And want to support sustainable and accountable, accessible local food systems, like the community gardens. We kind of help with some of the manpower for that. Our scope does extend beyond just litter and waste. And like I say, we work with other people. The city of Smithville is one of our partners, Bastrop County, corporate grants and individual donations. The Chamber of Commerce also helps support us. We are a committee under the umbrella of the chamber. We get several $1,000s from y'all a year. I think $4,000 a year from y'all. We are grateful for that, and your financial support is leveraged by kind of having other volunteers that exponentially help with that. If you see, we have no paid staff, so we're all volunteers. We have some in-kind volunteer hours. We had about 600 hours last year, which comes to just over $19,000. And that comes because our volunteer hours are valued at $31.80. In 2023, that amount changes from year to year, but that's what the state of Texas allows us this year. I want to show you some of the things that we've done over the past year. We had 2 super sweeps, street sweeps and river sweeps. We had the Sustainable Home and Garden Show last year. We've had volunteers for 2 of the household hazardous waste events, as well as one of the e-scrap events. We have a student art project that we work with the high school and junior high with, and then railroad enhancements at the railroad park and music in the park. We work with LPAA and the Culture District on some of that as well. And I'm going to let Woody talk a little bit about the super sweeps right now.
Oh, thank
This
you,
is
Caroline.
Woody Rain.
Yeah, my name is Woody Rain. I'm another one of the board members, and one of our other board members is here, Bill Glass, if he'll wave his hand, talking behind my back over here. What's he doing? In a way, our purpose here today is to brag a little bit, but not so much about Keep Smithville Beautiful, but about all the other organizations that partner with us. And one of the ways that we work together with a lot of the groups around town is picking up litter. You'd think it'd be a pretty basic sort of a dull thing, but I'm just so impressed with how many people chime in and are ready to help out. At a moment's notice, last year, we had over 100 volunteers cleaning up a dozen miles of roadway in and around the city. We cleaned up the river twice from the 95 bridge to Riverbend Park. Collected over 1.5 tons of recyclables and trash. And there's more out there, and we're going to need more help. We've already had one again this year, and we've got more to come. And we've been cleaning up over behind Brookshire. Not all of it is litter. Some of it is illegally dumped material that's just been there. It's almost historic. It's been there so long. There's an archaeological project in a way in some of this, if you go to the next slide there. So we get help from a lot of folks. Those are some of the smiling faces, and you'll see all these photos. You can keep going. Are folks that are out there happy to pick up litter. I just can't believe it. We supply the vest, the pickers, and the bags. They supply the smiles, and they pick where they want to go. We want to make sure that it's meaningful to them, that they can go out and pick up something that's meaningful to their organizations. And as you can see, the organizations, these are only the ones that I could find logos for. There's some others that are not up there, like the Smithville Baseball Club and the Smithville Steamers Homeschoolers. You got are the high school FFA, are they up there? So a bunch of folks, I just can't thank them enough, and appreciate y'all's support for us to be able to help them out. What's the next slide? Okay, back to you.
Okay, thank you. For the household hazardous waste, we have provided volunteers to help the city and county staff with 2 events so far this year. We have another one coming up in October. Jill, where's Jill?
Yes.
October. It's either the 12th or the 19th. I can't remember which date they picked. But that's going to be paint only, right? I think that's the first event is going to be paint only, but we'll be hearing more about that later. Let me see. You can see, we have some slides of That's what we've done in this past year. The Sustainable Home and Garden Show is coming up. It's usually the first Saturday in October. It is also the same day as the community-wide garage sale that's put on by the chamber. That's like from 8 to 12. Our event is from 10 to 2. And then there's another event that same afternoon from 1 till 9, a music festival. But the things that we've done is we give information about birds, native plants, mushrooms, clean water. Last year it was homesteading. This year it's going to be more of homesteading tips, but also water safety, because water is becoming more and more critical. We'll have informational tables. There's a student swap. There's a swap event, and then student art will also be kind of showcasing. Last year it was, what does a day of sustainable living look like to you? Stuff that we probably did in the 40s, 50s, and 60s that the kids don't really know how to do now, or learning or relearning. Let's see, Ms. Prohoda at the junior high has been partnering with us for several years with that. We do give cash prizes to the top 3 student artists. Then we display their art at the event. And then last year it was also displayed in the Lost Pines Artisans Alliance at Mary Nichols and at downtown at Semantic Squared. I don't know if you had some of the pictures of those. Okay, there you go, some of their artwork. Okay, last year we got a grant from the Union Pacific Foundation to build the pavilion where the old chamber office used to stand. We had gotten one of the rail cars painted and we built the pavilion. Then this year we got a second grant to paint the other rail car and then to do some artwork on the floor of the pavilion. That is not completed yet. The artist who's been tasked for doing that had some health problems, but she's hoping to have it done before the end of August, which is, I think, when the grant runs out. But again, the pavilion is multi-use and we want to have it so that it will bring more visitors downtown and hopefully boost some of the economic initiatives we're working on. Let's see what I got here. I already talked about that. That was the first one. Okay, the music in the park. That's another one of the initiatives that we've had this year. We're trying to do it in April because it's a little bit cooler, but this year it was the last weekend of April and the first 3 weekends of May. And we had some local performers, Brandy Bellin, Phil Hurley, Jeff Haney, and Bailey and Brian Wren were the ones that we had this year. They were well attended. We've gotten comments that people want it to continue going. So that's one of the things that we are continuing to work with other people with that. We gave our first Spotlight Award to Patrick Van Clark, who is a well-beloved city employee. He was very surprised, but he has done a lot. He kind of embodies the things that we do, keeping his routine very strict, and he doesn't like to sway from his routine very often. So yeah, he is very dedicated. He's a sweetheart. So what's up for 24 and 25? This spring and fall Greater Smithfield street sweeps. We've already had the spring, where fall will be in November. We do it in November. Finishing up the grant, the Railroad Park train and the pavilion floor. Our October 5th is our home sustainability show. The environmental art show, we're going to be working with Ms. Prohoda on that when school starts. That's one of the first projects that she does with her students. And then we're going to plan for music in the park. Another thing that we have that we didn't talk about was the bike repair. We did a bike repair workshop at the farmer's market a couple of months ago, right? It was in May. I think it was in May. Also on Main Street, we're getting ready to hire somebody to hopefully keep Smitty's Garden, the gazebo area, and then Main Street from First to the library. Keep that cleaned up. And then the art banners we talked about. We talked about the household hazardous waste. We've got the one coming up in October, and then there'll be one in January for tires and electronic waste. And then in March of 25 will be a full event except for tires and electronics. And you'll be hearing more about that as it comes closer to that time. Please follow us on Facebook. We have our Keep Smithfield Beautiful has its own page. Smitty also has his own page. Do y'all have any questions? We even have a gingerbread man, so y'all can remember to buy a gingerbread man. That's coming up in November. So if you want to, with this heat, it is. But if y'all want one, please let us know, because we're going to be taking orders pretty soon. Do y'all have any questions? Thank y'all very much. Thank you. Thank you, Woody.
Next item on the agenda is updating the recycling center.
Okay.
Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Tyrone, take it away.
Folks, we've been doing real good on the recycling center. We are now above 500 members, more out of town than in town. We had our first load that went out to Keep Texas Recycling. We have changed a vendor that takes our recycle. Hopefully, we'll be getting more with that. Edward and Robert and I are working with the school district to try to find a way to get the white paper that we can use from the school district for recycling. White paper is $1,400 a bale. It brings in quite a bit of money, and we will split that with the school district if we can find a way to do it. We have a few things to work out. A lot of them have to do with confidentiality for the kids. Nothing that has their names on it or anything else can go out in that white paper will be restricted. But I think it will be another revenue source for the recycling center to make it so that we're not charging our residents. That is the goal. Hopefully, within a 2-year period, the recycle center will be back to costing nothing, because we'll be able to pay for it with the recyclables that come in. The man that works down there keeps it very clean. The place looks good. Thank you to Keep Smithfield Beautiful. Raines, thank you so much. We wouldn't be able to do a lot at the recycle center if it hadn't been for the past history that you've given us and all the things that you've done down there beforehand. So we really do appreciate that. And that's about it for the recycle center, folks.
Thank you, Jimmy. And Tyrone. Next item is approval of the minutes from June 10th, 2024 council meeting and public hearing, and the June 12th, 2024 special called council meeting and budget workshop. Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, move we approve minutes for June 10th, 2024 council meeting and public hearing, as well as June 12th, 2024 special called council meeting and budget workshop.
I second.
A motion's been made and second. All in favor? A motion is approved. General public comment. Jennifer, at this time, we have anyone to speak?
Yes, the first one is Jean Hoskins.
Mr. Hoskins, will you just state where you live? Come on up and state where you live, please. Is it on?
It's on. You should press the button.
I'm here because in opposition of all these stop signs that's been erected in the city. I want to keep Smithfield like it was before, as I grew up here. We have good services from the city now. We've got reasonable taxes. And one thing that I'd like to emphasize, especially we have an exceptionally good police department. They're excellent are giving us a protection and response time for their calls. So I can't, even though I'm against these stop signs, it has to do with the police department. They're tops in my book. There's been a lot of information on what stop signs are for and how they're properly placed and usage of them. I won't go into all of that, but I had some questions, but my time is limited to only 3 minutes, so I'll probably have to be coming back for further answers. But I mean, what, can y'all tell me or somebody tell me what brought about the stop signs? How much input was here? Y'all,
Mr. Hoskins, typically, there's no interchange with the council. You speak your 3 minutes and statement of fact will happen afterward, or they can put it on a future agenda
okay, then
for discussion. I'm sorry, didn't want to keep you hanging, but that's the protocol.
that's fine, and I'm not familiar with, oh, this is the first time I've ever been to a council meeting, and I don't want to get that. But,
We welcome you.
anyhow, but I'll pertain later on of having a bunch of questions to be answered by someone from the city on that. I'll enter that in at a later time to y'all. But, I mean, some of the, there wasn't too much input put in it and thinking and knowledge. When you go up on Colorado Drive, I think, or Colorado Street, and a stop sign is there, and there's not a street coming across, and the other street that's coming is a one-way going the other way. I mean, just doesn't make any sense for a town as smart as we are to put up something so dumb. And that's just the first one I could get into, so it'll take me more than 3 minutes, and that's my response, as well as, it may be too late, because I wasn't familiar with all these meetings that y'all have been having. I'm not on the internet or anything like that. But personally, what I've heard has been a lot of response against it. And we're prepared to draw a petition if need be to get this thing stopped or reversed or changed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Just for the purposes of clarification of facts, can we inform the audience as to where notifications are published about the program and explanation? I think city manager has put it out in several different, I can't enumerate them. It's on the city website, city manager update. More than that,
Give you some help.
thank you.
Okay, statement of fact. Since there's been 3 meetings where stop signs were discussed. The reasons the stop signs went in were the result of dozens of complaints of speeders on MLK and Short Street. Especially when there's a train on MLK. It's not uncommon to see people going 50 and 60 miles an hour down MLK to try to beat the train so they can get across the tracks. A series of traffic studies and actually ride-alongs was conducted with the chief of police, David Repka, and the council to validate and verify where the stop signs made sense. And so the overall strategy was to break it up into quadrants to try to aid in slowing down people on Short and Colorado. I've had discussions with Chief Repka regarding the sign on Colorado and Turney. Yeah, you're right. We're probably going to relocate that one to where it makes more sense and where it's closer to the curve, where there has been 2 accidents off of Colorado onto Short, right there at the corner house, and one at another residence. So this is in response to, again, dozens of complaints, traffic data, and for the benefit of the safety of the entire town. So those are the statements of fact going forward. Before the council takes action, we will publish where the intended additional stop signs are going to go well in advance to give citizens the opportunity to come in and express their favor of or against those stop signs. Mr. Hoskins, good? It's up to the mayor. She runs the meeting.
Could I come back up here if you have one question? I have a statement.
My emphasis on the police department is that the way you control accidents like that would be through patrolling the speed and not stopping and writing somebody a stop sign ticket. And I'd like to know just how much effort was put into this from TxDOT and whoever information, whatever your information is, as well as how many accidents have happened, how many speeding tickets have been written to try to slow down this problem. And I mean, the purpose of a stop sign is to be put in where there's an intersection comes in where the traffic warrants a stop sign. In other words, a prime example, I think, is at the middle crossing there where you have Martin Luther King coming in with the traffic going across the railroad tracks. I could understand putting a stop sign there, giving people a chance to pull out on the road. But I want to emphasize the police should be right. The speeding tickets and not causing problems for the rest of the town. Especially when I'm driving my electric truck, it kicks back on with the gasoline every time I pull through.
Thank you.
Next, I have Guy Farmer.
Will you please state where you live?
Well, I have 5 locations that I live. So my principal is 805 Burleson Street.
Thank you.
My comment is about the stop signs also. Those sort of popped up and there may have been a lot of discussion about it here. And as always, on major things like this, they just pop up and then people complain about it. Maybe the city in that case could go around and put a piece of paper up there and say, we're going to put a stop sign here. You'd get a whole lot of this type of meeting done without ever having any major complaints. We would have saved the city as well as ourselves quite a bit of money putting those things up. I've got 8 of them within my house right now. And I used to have 1 about 6 months ago. That's crazy. The people who drive up and down our streets, they come around to look at some of the historical homes, and that's great, but they go up there and they have to stop at every stop sign. And anybody that's behind them gets really irritated. So I think we're missing the boat on that. I agree with the gentleman before me. We have police officers, and I understand they're there because I got to go see the judge once and I've slowed down. And so it's a situation where we need the help there, not by stopping people all the time. It's more of an irritation than anything else. And it's an irritation for the people who come to see us. We've had that comment 2 or 3 times since they've been put up, principally family members. And every time it's been negative. One time was when you guys must be a bunch of hellions around here because I can't believe you drive that fast. My comment is just based strictly on having been in the community for a while. And I see a lot of decisions made on what we need. We pay for this garbage. This is not free for the citizens here. And we have people up here that represent us. I have never seen my representative in my neighborhood talking about that. You know, if you run by and drop something on the thing or knock on my door, I'll talk to you about a stop sign. And it won't take but about a minute. Get some people who work for you or are associated with you that helped elect you to go talk to some of these people and see what they think before you just make the decision to do whatever you want to do. I hear these things, well, you had notice and on and on and on. I work every day. And you look at me and you say, I'm too old to work. That's not the case. I have a farm not far from here. I don't have time to come here. I don't have time to read the computer and do all that stuff. I would like somebody to come tell me about it. Or thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I have Ken Perry.
Afternoon. Ken Perry, 806 Burleson. I happen to live across the street from Guy. Very coincidental. We're not trying to tag team it. It seems like I absolutely agree. Colorado, Short Street, MLK makes total sense. First question I have for you is how many stop signs do you put up? Can somebody tell me that off the top of their head? How many stop signs are put up?
14?
14? Seems a whole lot more now. Anyway, it seems like that it was done without a real plan
It's okay.
for what was done. For example, at corner down from me at 8th and Burleson. The stop sign is on Burleson. 8th Street is like this, doesn't even go through. But there's a stop sign on Burleson. Makes no sense. There is a stop sign at 7th and Main. Replaced a yield sign there. 2 dead-end streets. You can't go any further on Main. You can go to 2 houses on Main. You can't go any further on 7th Street. There's a stop sign there now, okay? That's just 2 that I've noticed from driving from my house here. So I think that hopefully that there is some data, hard data that you can look at to see if any of this has worked. Okay, we've got this. Seems to me that was done from anecdotal evidence, driving around with the chief of police, I believe it was. Oh, there should be one. I mean, it's what it appears that has been done. It doesn't appear that there's been something that was logical and seemed to make sense from a public safety. Now, public safety, I'm all for that. I sat out on my porch for 2 hours this morning from 8 to 10, and there were 3 cars drove by my house, yet there's a stop sign a block from it. Doesn't make sense to me, but that's my own anecdotal evidence. I just think there should be some thought given to where these are going to go in. I doubt there's anything we can do about the 14 that are already in, although I'd like to see something done about that, but you know, that's fighting City Hall, as they say. But I'd like to see something done to not put any more in unless there was some logical reason for it to be there. And the ordinance that was passed, it said that you looked at through streets and there's a definition, a document that defines what through streets are. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to get to that and take a look at it and evaluate it. But I would question, without seeing it, I would wonder how the definition of through street was come up with. I mean, it appears that in the instance that I just decided that 8th Street or 8th Street is a through street. Well, it's not. So Burleson isn't either. And ironically, 5th Street has in the past been somewhat of a through street. There weren't any stop signs on it, but now there is a stop sign on 5th, which was the through street, and Burleson. Oh, I'm sorry. Is that what that means?
Thank you.
Next, I have Lori Hoffman.
Mr. Hoffman?
Miss Hoffman,
I'm
Lori.
sorry, Ms. Hoffman? Oh, Miss Lori Hoffman. Hello.
So I'm not talking about stop signs, although that was kind of interesting. I'm really here more for, and Teresa, you want to come down to, and Kim? Some of my board members are here as well. I'm here for more of an informational reason to try to reach out to the citizens of Smithville and of course you guys. We put together a 501(c)(3) nonprofit last year called Smithville Community Improvement Association. And one of our main projects was Dickens on Main with a Texas twist. We put that on, I logged over 700 volunteer hours amongst probably 9 people. And that's just what was logged. We put it on last year and it was very successful. We had between 1,500 and 2,000 people on Main Street. We actually made a little over $1,000, which we were able to use for students at the school. Our 2 main projects that we want the money to go to are the beautification of Main Street and the kids. Because it is supposed to be a family event. It's an event that we were able to put on for free. No one had to pay for anything except for like the ice skating rink and, you know, some of the really high dollar items that we put on, but to see Santa Claus and to sit in Santa's lap and to all the money was generously, and we so appreciate it, donated by various volunteers so that we were able to do that as a free service to our town and to try to bring money into our town. It's a way to generate not only a very fun family event, it's the only event of the year that I know of that is just, other than Jamboree, that is like a total family event. It also has the ability, there are two other Dickens, oh shoot. There are two other Dickens in Texas, one in Galveston and one in Bernie. It has the ability to bring a whole lot of money into our town for visitors. We're in a bad spot right now because we don't have volunteers and we don't have sponsors. And we don't know, I'm going to try and wrap it up. We don't know if it's partly because it's an election year. And so one of the things that we are considering is postponing it and not doing it this year and just keep trying and try to put it together for next year. Or we need to know if Smithville just doesn't want it because we're not getting any volunteers. And we have put things out on Facebook and we're trying really hard. So tomorrow night will be, hopefully not, but potentially our last meeting at the Fat Cat. And I'd really appreciate it if you guys would spread the word and people who are interested and want to volunteer or what have you might show up. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
6 p.m. Oh, sorry. 6 p.m. at 301 Main at the Fat Cat.
301 Main, Fat Cat, 6 p.m.
6 p.m.
Next. Okay.
Madam Mayor, may I make a comment, please, before we go to the next item?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that everyone understands that during the public comment section, we're not allowed to interact with you because it's not an agenda item. But being a big proponent of adding this element to our council meetings, we do hear you. We are taking notes. And we would probably be discussing this, particularly since I see there's a large contingent speaking about the stop sign issue, that we may put that on a future agenda item to discuss and give you more opportunity to provide some feedback. But we're not dismissing you. We're not allowed to discuss it because it's not an agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you.
5 more seconds. How many people are opposed to stop?
Oh, goodness.
Opposed to more stop?
Sorry. Yeah, thank you. Next item on the agenda, we're going to go into a closed meeting. The city council will hold an executive session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Government Code, Vernon's Texas code annotated in accordance with the authority contained in Section 551074 to discuss personnel, chief of police employment contract, and Section 551071 consultation with attorney regarding the setback variance for the M5 subdivision requested by Don Barker Homes Incorporated, listed in items 13C through 13G on the agenda. Be right back. We're going back into the open meeting. Discussion and action and result of the executive meeting, the executive session.
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the employment contract as presented in executive session for Chief Repka and authorize the city manager to execute said contract.
Second.
Motion's been made second. All in favor? Motion is approved. Next item is hearing recommendations from planning and zoning.
Council, this is probably, I guess I should say, my name is Gary Gutierrez. I'm the chairman of the Planning and Zoning Board. This was one of the toughest meetings that I've sat in thus far. Lots of stuff on the agenda and lots of talking amongst the board. Item A on y'all's agenda, the special use permit request for a guest house at 801 Bishop, property ID 21476. Baker Addition, Block A, Lot 8, property owner Jason Shackelford. Mr. Shackelford's wanting to convert a garage into an apartment for his elderly, sick mother. This would give her a space of her own, but close enough for him to help her when needed. Only one neighbor spoke on this topic. He was in support of this and stated Mr. Shackelford is the ideal neighbor. It was mentioned that if this building was converted to a dwelling, there would be a need of off-street parking. P and Z board unanimously voted to recommend to approve this special use permit. Any questions on that one?
Any questions?
Y'all talked about cars, parking, and the use of the garage. What was the final that you decided about that? That the garage was enough? It satisfied the parking issue?
No, sir. The garage is actually being converted into the apartment.
Okay.
So
He is,
the house is grandfathered in today the way that it sits without the parking. Changing this to a residence would require 2 off-street parking. We just made Mr. Shackelford aware that he's going to have to do that if this is approved.
I have a quick question for maybe city manager. When you have an existing structure that may not comply with setback lines, it's grandfathered, much like what you just referenced, but when you made the changes that they're making, does that not require a variance for setback of the existing structure?
The pre-existing non-conforming use that's remained untouched can still continue to have a pre-existing non-conforming use. Any additions that you make have to come into compliance, which would mean the 3-foot rear yard setback for any accessories they add to that building.
So just the new improvements have to
Correct,
comply?
new improvements.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe if you look on, if I'm reading it right, if you look on his drawing there, he shows the 3-foot setbacks on those for his new addition. Item B, on a replat combining 2 lots into one at 406 Burn Street. property ID 16760, Burn Edition, Block 106, Lot A, Lot 1 and 2, property owner Daniel and Ryan Fowler. The owners of these lots plan to build one house that sits on both lots. This will be a single-family home. There were no public comments on this agenda, and the board unanimously voted to recommend the approval of this replat. Any questions on that one? All right, items C, D, E, F, and G all pertain kind of to the same thing. We were going to take these items one by one in the meeting, but questions that were asked on the first item, kind of answered for all of them. So just sped it up. In this deal, the builder stated that his initial plan was to build homes with a setback of 25 foot. The concrete guy set the forms way in front of this. This was missed by the builder as well as the city inspector. The city also issued a certificate of occupancy for all these homes. This was caught by the title company. The original plans for these homes were not presented at the time of this meeting. To confirm that the original drawing showed a 25-foot setback, it was unclear where the plans were. It was mentioned by the builder that the concrete guy was one of the developers of the subdivision. That being said, he should know the setbacks better than anyone. It was noted that every occupied house in the neighborhood had a vehicle parked in the driveway, likely because two-car garage is very tight with two cars in there. That being said, there were concerns that a longer vehicle, like a truck, would stick into the sidewalk, potentially causing concerns for ADA compliance. This space wouldn't meet the city's requirements for an off-street parking space, 8 foot by 20 foot. These are two-car garages, which does meet the requirement for 2 off-street parking, but as stated, they are very small two-car garages. There was only one public comment, and it was a concern for the elderly citizen that is actually living in one of the houses already. A question was asked to the city, have we had any other permitting issues or building concerns with this builder? And it was stated that they had on fencing permits, a cease and desist was issued and fines were added. One of the biggest concerns from all the P and Z members was the mistake like this leaves them in a hard place. The common theme among the members, there needs to be some sort of fine to show that our codes and ordinance mean something and we're not just pushovers. Seeing that the city had a hand in letting this happen, a motion was made to approve these items. The code for violations, penalties, failure to pull permits was added to this motion. I'll read that real quick. Section 3.02.034 violations, penalties, and failure to pull permits. Any person, firm, corporation, or agent who shall violate a provision of this division or any provision of the International Building Code adopted herein by reference or fail to comply therewith or with any of the requirements thereof, or who shall erect, construct, demolish, or move any structure or has erected, constructed, moved, or demolished a building or structure in violation of a detailed statement or drawing submitted and approved thereunder shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. Each person shall be guilty of a separate offense for each and every day or portion thereof during which any violation of any of the provisions of the code is committed or continued. And upon conviction of any such violation, such person shall be punished within the limits as provided by the state law. And then B says, any person, firm, corporation, or agent who fails to pull a permit with the city prior to any work being done that requires a permit shall be charged the amount of the permit plus a penalty of 2 times the amount, therefore making the permit fee 3 times the normal amount. We definitely know that we don't have the jurisdiction to put a fine, but that is the recommendation. That this was just the strong feelings that the board had that there needs to be something more than just passing it and letting it go and calling it good. Nothing stops it from happening again at that point. The motion was voted on and passed with a 4-1 vote for all those, and that was on y'all's agenda, C, D, E, F, and G. Any questions on those?
So did y'all at P and Z, I know you said you couldn't enforce or anything, but did y'all go back and forth about how much you thought a penalty should be? Or did y'all just leave that lay? I was there, but I can't remember exactly how that went.
There were some numbers tossed around, but nothing, nobody really knows, right? This is uncharted territories for us as well, I'm sure for y'all. I don't know, the code says whatever's therein for the law, so I don't really know what the law is on that. So I couldn't answer that.
Okay.
But no, we don't have a specific dollar amount. I would assume that it would be per violation, so for each lot.
Mayor, I'm going to reserve my comments till we move to the public hearing.
Sorry, I had it on. Anybody have any questions for P and Z? Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Well, we'll close the open meeting and go into the public hearing. We have anybody signed up? Do a minute. Guess just have him come up.
Back into the open, I guess.
We'll go back into the open meeting. What do you want me? We're gonna go back into the open meeting, and Mr. Barker, would you come up?
Point of order, Mayor. Are we going to go through A and B before we get to the developer?
Oh, do we have anybody for A?
Well,
Are we back in open or are we in public?
Went back to the open meeting,
meeting, not in the public.
back to the open meeting, because I did not realize I needed to speak in the open meeting. Hey. You're good. Okay, thank you, Miss. Okay, so we're back in the open meeting. We're planning and zoning just delivered there. And now we're to Mr. Barker.
Great.
Anybody have any questions?
I've got plenty of questions. Did you have a statement you wanted to make or you just want us to ask the questions?
Is the mic on?
There was a mistake made and, but I did have permits before I started. It was a fence. There was 3 lots that we started a fence on before we had a permit for a fence. I didn't know that. And we stopped that day, got permits on all 10 houses and that was it. So sounded like we didn't have permits, but we did have permits. And we had site plans drawn, everything. And, it was missed. I don't know what else to say.
I would prefer to reserve until we get into the debate. I don't particularly have any questions specifically other than that your explanation of how this happened was it was a mistake.
It's obvious it's a mistake. I mean, it was inspected. I wasn't here, but that's neither here nor there with my company. And, but it was, inspected. Everything was inspected and everything was passed. There was actually, the lots were surveyed and stuff, and the plans were on there. So, I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, there's 2 gentlemen here that can answer more of it. Adam here, Wayne. And, going forward, I was wanting to do more houses. I was dealing with these gentlemen here, this gentleman here, and the lots, not what will be surveyed, but the pins or the forms will be set before they are formed. Because that way,
Well, my question would be, why wasn't this done for these five?
um,
And when was it done? It's last December?
it was done in December.
So why was it that process followed at that time?
I said it was not, I was doing it with somebody else, but I'm assumed something I shouldn't assume. I'm just saying going forward to correct it, this is what we would do. It'd be done beforehand, not just a form survey for pre-pour like we had, but actually the form would be, corners would be staked before you do that, have a survey company do it, and then after it's formed, go check it too. So, you know, we had it surveyed, I had it surveyed, and to check had for closing all 10 of them. And for the fences and everything, so to have it. And the survey company did not even ask them if there was any violation. They said no, and they told me, and I just never did go any deeper. But the survey company, I had them surveyed even afterwards, and after the first year, where I'd have them all at one time, you know, where you have a fence on there and everything for closing. And I asked them specifically, was there any violations? They said no. And yet when the title company on the first closing, 111, saw it. So that's when we found out.
On January 11th?
It was probably in March, or it was late February, or early March.
Okay, I mean, it makes a difference to me if it was January 11th versus March. It would make a difference to me if it were January 11th versus March.
Oh,
If there were knowledge of this at January 11th and it wasn't brought,
No, it was knowledge was, I want to say it was somewhere around the 1st of March, because when we finished, 5 of them were final, then they had to do 5 of them with the new third-party inspection. And they came on board, I think it was the first week of March, and did that. And that's when we had all these fences built. I went ahead, because we were gonna sell them, had surveys done on all 10 houses again to show the fences, make sure everything was right. And that's when it was discovered.
Councilmember Jameson, to add to that, it was in the first part of May that the title company contacted me.
No more comment.
Good.
We're good.
I think they're good with questions here, so you're good? Okay. Do you want to make a statement? You're welcome to.
I'd like to just make a statement. I mean, I've known Mr. Barker for at least 8 years. I've known Adam Moyd, who's a developer on the project, for about the same time. I've got about 20 years in the construction business, mostly in banking. And I just want to speak to the character that I know you guys looking at this from the side is maybe somebody blatantly disregarded the requirements, but I can tell you that from a character standpoint, I've banked these guys for a number of years before starting my own construction company or co-founding my own construction company with Pine River Fine Homes. And in terms of character, these guys have always said that they were going to, I've seen financed them on a lot of big projects, a lot of money, loaned them to deals, kind of like the M5 subdivision. And they've always paid as agreed, done what they're going to say. They've always came within budget. There's never been these kind of problems. What I will tell you also in my years of seeing development and building, and I can see how, in a situation like this, how this can't happen, but I can see how it could happen. I've seen where slabs have been poured on wrong lots, even that much. Hate that it did happen, but it did. And from Adam's standpoint, I mean, he's seen his guys out there to not only from 25 feet to do the 25 feet that you guys needed from the curb, but also he wanted an extra foot as 26, and it's just one that got missed. So from a character standpoint, I just want to make sure you guys know that they didn't look at the requirement to say, well, we're just going to go ahead and do this, and we're going to try to go for a variance. That was not the case, because that comment kind of came up in the P&Z meeting, and I just want to speak to their character to that effect. They had permits to build. I know the fence variant, I know the fence permitting came up. The point that we're discussing here is regarding the variance. He had everything permitting to build that house, so that was done. And again, this thing stretched out. He got his permit somewhere around December 12th. And in May 1st is when it was identified by the title company. So it went through a lot of people before it was finally caught. And so, but yeah, at the end of the day, you can say he was the builder. He should have caught it, but I can guarantee you that slab, none of those slabs would have ever been poured had somebody identified, like you said, from the inspection that this was over variance. So
If I may interject, I'm looking at the specifics on it and we missed the setback with 5 different measurements. I mean, it's from 16 and a half, 18 and a half, 19 and a half, 19.6 and 19.7. It wasn't even consistent. So I'm just trying to understand how it has no question of character to me. It's process and quality. And so I don't understand how we missed it. I mean, it wasn't even a consistent miss.
Yeah, if I can explain.
Sure.
Those houses that missed the variance, they were on a curve. There's a radius, okay? And the one house, the first one, 332, is when you come into subdivision, there was a marker that was on the other side of the fence that was not picked up, that was where the apartment house is, next door to the apartment house. It was there, and that threw that one off. But, man,
I understand. And I drove out there for about the 4th time today and looked at it because I wanted to make sure I was looking at specifically, there are 3 houses on Cali
right.
that you can eyeball them and you can tell them that they're not on the same setback. So I'm not a builder. I'm not a contractor. I'm just trying to protect the interest of the city here. And so that's, I apologize if any of the questions are demeaning, but I'm just trying to get a grasp on how it happened.
I believe that part of the issue the guys had, there was a 3-foot sidewalk out there that was in the city, okay? The city sidewalk. Then inside that one, then I think there was a utility easement that came across there and it varied a little bit with the water and stuff. And so it had to be behind that. And so that's where I think some of the variance came, truthfully. I know I had to move. I moved on 111. We had to move the sewer, and on 3 of the lots had to move the sewers over because they were on the wrong lot. And then we had the water meters move them over because when they developed the subdivision, they changed that side of Cali. They changed and added 1 lot. They made 60-foot lots instead of 85-foot lots, I believe. Adam can answer better than me. So that's where some of the.
So that would be for the purpose of creating an additional lot for sale?
And I think what also happened, which the survey company, when they redid it, they left the old pins out there too for the old survey and not the new survey. They had both. And so the guys picked the wrong pins. I mean, I can see a number of reasons, but I just don't know because came in afterwards when I found out.
I understand and I appreciate the effort because we need houses here. And this is part of our economic development and we certainly need to have this to help us move forward and grow our tax base. So yeah, I understand and I appreciate your efforts and just if you please.
I do build a good house.
Just understand from our perspective, we've got to represent the citizens here. So
I understand.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I'm Adam Moyd. So of all people, I should know better because I'm the one that developed this thing, okay? And to address Mr. Gutierrez, as far as us trying to pull one over on the city, that's absolutely wrong. There's no economic gain to what happened here. What we did is we pinned the 4 corners of the house, forgot about the garage being recessed out. So the house corners are all beyond the 25-foot setback. So in the heat of things with 10 houses going on, it got lost in translation on all of a sudden the garages went out. Nobody double checked it. I mean, I'll admit fault right now. I'm at fault. Your inspector is an extension of your arm, right, Mitchell? Tyrone, Jimmy, Sharon, Robert, Tom, Kathy. Your inspector, so that makes y'all wrong too. I mean, and Don's wrong. We're all wrong. Everybody made a mistake on this. It wasn't intentional at all. I've done several government jobs for the city of Smithfield, bonded jobs. I did a lot of, poured all the sidewalks on MLK. I mean, for years and years, probably for 10 years, I've done millions of dollars of work for the city. Never had a problem. And with economic gain, if you think we're trying to pull something over, do the interest on $3.5 million on a 30-year note, 8.5% interest. And we're a month into this. We've already lost $26,000 arguing over, or not arguing, or trying to get permission to do it the right way, to go through P and Z and go to city council. So the longer this goes, it's $1,000 a day. So we're losing money asking to do it the right way. We made a mistake. We own up to it. And we're asking the city to give us a little relief on this, and we'll make it right from there on out. That's where we're at, okay? So as far as penalties, we've been penalized a lot. And if we're at fault, city's at fault, Don's at fault, well, let's all share the fault. I mean, you want to put a $5,000 penalty on it, well, the city ought to be responsible for half. If you do that, then where's our half the interest at that this drug out? That's kind of where I'm at. That's a lot of money. And we're trying to go about it the right way. That's where I'm at.
Just to clarify that comment, so you're laying responsibility on the city for your interest costs because of the delay and a mistake that was made?
If there's a fine induced, yes. If you want to fine me, then I have hardship also.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
So,
You
Are we
public
good?
comment.
okay, so we're good there? I'm gonna close the open meeting and go into public comment,
Hearing.
public hearing, I'm sorry.
Call to order, Hammer.
Doctor. Okay, make sure I'm in the right place.
Any comments?
Are there any citizen comments? Okay. No, do I need to go down to there?
Adjourn,
All
open
right, so
meeting.
we're gonna adjourn there. And we're gonna go back into the open meeting. Discussion and action on a special permit request for a guest house at 801 Bishop Street, property ID 21476, Baker Edition, Block A, Lot 8, property owner Jason Shackelford. Any questions? Entertain a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion that we issue a special use permit request for a guest house at 801 Bishop Street, property ID 21476, Baker Edition, Block A, Lot 8, property owner Jason Shackelford.
Second.
Motion been made and second. All in favor? 1, 2. It's approved. On a replat combining two lots into one at 406 Burn Street, property ID 16760, Burn Edition, Block 106, Lot 1 and 2, property owner Daniel and Ryan Fowler.
Mayor, make a motion. We approve the replat combining two lots into one at 406 Burn Street, property ID 16760, Burn Edition, Block 106, Lot 2 and 2, 1 and 2, property owner Daniel and Ryan Fowler.
I'll second that.
And motion's been made and second. All in favor? Approved. On an ordinance for a front yard setback variance of 19 foot 7 inches instead of 25 foot for 111 Cali Street, property ID 8728789, M5 subdivision, Block A, Lot 31, property owner Don Barker Homes Incorporated. Anybody have any questions?
We've got no citizen. Okay, so we're going to move, to this point. What I would like to ask for the edification of the public, and if the city manager could go through a summary of the events that led to this, so that we've got a grasp in the audience and online of how we got where we are.
Certainly, I'll take you through a journey. A building permit was pulled for the construction of these homes back November of last year. At the time, there was a drawing supplied that actually had the 25-foot front yard setback identified. Somewhere between then and the time the the forms were laid. As Mr. Barker and Mr. Moyd explained, the pins got relocated and the forms were placed where they were. We had an inspector at the time who also missed the error. The slabs were poured and the homes built. And a certificate of occupancy was issued for these homes. And at some point in the April-May timeframe, the title company, as was indicated by Mr. Barker, indicated that, hold on now, your setbacks aren't right. And we won't lend money off of this until you get a variance to allow the setbacks with which you have placed. That's a very quick overview of what occurred. So a permit was issued. The inspection did not indicate that it was in violation. Concrete poured, homes built, COA issued, certificate of occupancy issued, title company refused. Mr. Barker and company went through to apply through the planning and zoning process to get the variance approved, and that's what brings them here to you and your decision now regarding the variances for the 5 homes. That capture?
Thank you. I'm trying not to dominate this conversation and hope that my colleagues will step forward and give their thoughts on this. We're in a unique situation here where we've got to decide what's in the best interest of the citizens in the city and not create a negative environment for our developers to invest in the community and move forward with building the homes that we need. At the same time, we've got to make sure that we're not perceived as a city that won't enforce its ordinances. So there's some other issues and measures that we need to discuss in terms of approving or declining the variance and or trying to determine if we can assess a fine. So I want to put that out there for my colleagues for further comment.
Well, Mayor, may I?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll indulge my colleague, Mr. Jameson, and provide some insight, just my own opinion. For those that listened at the last council meeting, I made it pretty clear before that when the planning and zoning makes a decision, there needs to be a pretty compelling reason to go against it. And so I think they recognized in their vote and then kind of their intimation that there ought to be some penalty. They recognized, as I think Mr. Moy did, that, this is an unfortunate situation. It probably had a lot of points at which somebody could have caught something. I think that, a misdemeanor as described in our zoning ordinance, I think is not specified which class misdemeanor, but I think they typically fall to class C if they're not specified under state statute. So a class C misdemeanor is punishable by, $500 a day per occurrence, if I'm not mistaken. So if this happened in January or February, or even as late as March or April or May, you can certainly do the math and figure out that that would be an unduly burden in my mind to ask a developer to pay. However, I do think that ordinances mean something. At some point in the history of this town, the citizens thought enough of 5 people and a mayor that they elected them. They approved a zoning ordinance that said 25-foot setback was the right amount. And even though we may have had an employee that went out there and didn't catch this, that does not give an applicant or a developer, the right to go and develop in violation of our ordinances. So I think for us as a body, we're charged with finding a way to hopefully approve this with some, convenient enough penalty to where it's bearable by the applicant, but also is consistent with our pledge to enforce our ordinances. For us to simply do nothing and approve this, for me personally, it's not acceptable. I'm not going to be able to support that, but I'm certainly not going to be able to support something that's overly punitive. And I think we'll find common ground. That would be my contribution to the dialogue.
Mayor, may I ask a question of the city attorney?
Yes, sir.
So I'm sorry, Mr. Rummel, I bring you to the microphone. In terms of the violation of the ordinance, that starts from the time that the form was poured, the slab was poured?
I think if we wanted to enforce our ordinance to the very letter of the law, it would be as soon as that form was poured, it was in violation, because then he constructed it in violation of the permit and in violation of the zoning ordinance. So we actually have 2 violations per day And the maximum fine on a zoning violation is actually $2,000 per day,
Per day.
per lot.
So if we, let's say that the slabs were poured on December 31st, so we're sitting here in July, so we're at 190.
Big number. Yes, sir.
It's 450,000 if you get all of them together is what I did.
450,000
Yes, that's,
at what fine per day?
that was just at the $500.
At
per day.
500 per
That's
day.
not the 2,000. I did the math on that. I didn't want to. Jason, so the city has the legal right to enforce the laws, of fines per this, no matter where we stand with this. Am I correct in that?
Yes, sir. Even if there was a mistake on the city's part, the city does not, the legal term is stopped. The city is not stopped from enforcing its ordinance just because an employee made a mistake.
Okay, I'm gonna have to agree with my colleagues that we're gonna need to do something, but we don't want to do something that's so punitive that it tells builders, hey, don't come back to our city. We can't, we don't want you. That's not what we need to do. We need to have a value and a way to go forward that looks at this. If I may, to all of my colleagues, I'm gonna suggest that we fine for the whole thing $1,000 per lot. And we will approve the variance with the caveat that it could have been fined up to $500 a day per occurrence. I believe this is the way forward for the city council, and this is, it's punitive, but to me, it's a minimal punitive value.
I just want to say that I think that it's important to be uniform. And while this is unfortunate for everyone involved, we do need to set precedents and we do need to follow our ordinances. That's why we have them. And variances aren't supposed to be for oops, but this is important. These homes need to be sold. None of us feel they should be torn down, but we need to make some kind of restitution to what's happened. And I agree with my colleagues on this. Thanks.
You're good. He's good.
Okay.
Okay.
Make a motion.
Okay, I'm going to make these as motion as one at a time. So I'm going to make a motion on, I move for approval of a variance on an ordinance for the front yard setback variance of 19.7 instead of 25 at 111 Cali Street, property ID 8728789 M5 subdivision, Block A, Lot 31, property owner Darn Barker Homes. Now, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and there are no special conditions affecting the applicant's property. And because the special conditions, little enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship, and the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and the substantial justice is done by granting the variance. The variance will be approved with a $1,000 penalty fine, with the caveat that could have been fined up to $500 a day per occurrence of violation.
Mr. Jenkins, can I have one point of clarification?
Yes, sir.
As part of that motion, you find, the motion is to also find that penalty, the $1,000 penalty, is necessary and desirable and in the public interest.
Yes, thank you. That's not on my page, so I didn't read it. Okay, would you say that one to me one more time?
The motion includes a finding that the assessment of that $1,000 penalty is necessary and desirable in the public interest.
Okay, the motion approves with the variance and the variance with the approval of the $1,000 per lot is necessary and desirable in the public interest.
Second, somebody?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have it as written then? So move on to the next one.
Sorry about that. I butchered that up, but we'll get it on this one.
Okay, so. Okay. On the ordinance for a front yard setback variance of 19 foot 6 inches instead of 25 foot for 103 Cali Street, property ID 872-8785, M5 subdivision, Block A, Lot 27, property owner Don Barker Homes Incorporated. You have any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the variance on an ordinance for a front yard setback, a variable 19 foot 6 inches instead of 25 foot for 103 Cali Street, property ID 8728785, M5 subdivision, Block A, Lot 27, property owner Don Barker Homes. The approval of the variance includes the following findings. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and there are special conditions affecting the applicant's property. And because of the special conditions, literal enforcement of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship. And the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and the substantial justice is done by granting the variance. The fine of $1,000 is necessary and desirable to making this variance, so it will create substantial justice. Is that correct? In the public interest. Public interest. I knew I'd get it.
Close. Okay. Motion's made.
I'll second.
All in favor? Motion is approved, or with the variance. Ready?
Yeah, go.
On an ordinance for the front yard setback variance 18 foot 5 inches instead of 25 foot for 117 Cali Street, property ID 8728777, M5 subdivision, Block A, Lot 2, property owner Don Barker Homes Incorporated. Council, you have any questions?
Okay, may I ask something? You went to this one instead
No.
of this one?
Didn't I do E?
No, we haven't done E. You
What?
skipped E.
Okay, so then we're on the 107 Cali Street, property ID 8728787, M5 subdivision, Block A, Lot 29, property owner Don Barker. Okay, we're on E.
Mhm.
Council, you have any questions?
Okay, Mayor, I move that we approve a variance on ordinance, excuse me, we approve an ordinance for a front yard setback variance of 19.5 instead of 25 for 107 Cali Street, property ID 8728787, M5 subdivision, Block A, Lot 29, property owner Don Barker Homes Incorporated. We approve this variance with the following findings. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and there are special conditions affecting the applicant's property. And because of the special conditions, literal enforcement of the ordinance will result in unnecessary hardship, and the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and substantial justice is done by granting the variance. It's necessary and desirable for a $1,000 fine for this lot, and it is in the public interest to do this.
Second.
I'll second that motion.
Motion been made and second. All in favor? Variance is approved. Now we're on F, right?
Yes, ma'am.
On the ordinance for the front yard setback variance 18 foot 5 inches instead of 25 foot for 117 Cali Street, property ID 8728777, M5 subdivision, Block A, Lot 2, property owner Don Barker Homes. Council, do you have a question?
Okay, Mayor, I make that we approve an ordinance for the front yard setback variance of 18.5 instead of 25 for 117 Cali Street, property ID 8728777, M5 subdivision, Block A, Lot 2, property owner Don Barker Homes. We approve the variance with the following findings. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and there are special conditions affecting the applicant's property. And because of the special conditions, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship. And the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and substantial justice is done by granting the variance. It is necessary and desirable that we include a $1,000 fine for the lot, and it is in the public interest.
Second.
I'll second that motion.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor? Approve the variance. G,
Yeah, one more.
one more time.
Yep.
On an ordinance for a front yard setback variance of 16 foot 5 inches instead of 25 foot for 332 Webb Street, property ID 8728807, M5 subdivision, Block C, Lot 25, property owner Don Barker Homes Incorporated.
Okay,
Any
you good?
questions?
All right, we're good. I move that we improve an ordinance on a front, hold it, I'm at the wrong one. Approve an ordinance on a front yard setback variance of 16.5 instead of 25 for 332 Webb Street, property ID 8728807, M5 subdivision, Block C, Lot 25, property owner Don Barker Homes, Inc. I move we approve this variance with the following findings. The variance will not be contrary to the public interest, and there are special conditions affecting the applicant's property. And because of the special conditions, literal enforcement of the ordinance would result in unnecessary hardship, and the variance observes the spirit of the ordinance, and substantial justice is done by granting the variance. It is necessary and desirable to include a $1,000 fine for this lot, and it is in the public interest to do so.
Second.
I second.
Motion made and second. All in favor? Variance is approved. Okay, so next. Come up to the mic. Yes, sir.
I want to say appreciate it and actually, oh,
Turn it,
You
just
want it
hit the button
green?
in the middle.
yeah, no, is it on?
It is.
Hello? Anyhow, I want to appreciate you and thank you what you just did. But I would also like to donate $5,000, which I thought I should have been fined more because we variance 2 times more than permit. And I figured what the permits I paid, I'd like to donate that to some cause that y'all want to have.
So you understand you're gonna pay the city the 5,000,
I'm gonna give you,
and you're gonna do the 5,000 to, we'll have to, I don't,
We can accept that. Thank you. Yeah, we can
Thank
accept
you.
that at your choice.
whoever you choose.
Thank you.
That's very, very magnanimous on
Appreciate
your
it. Okay.
part. Thank you.
what now?
That's very magnanimous on your part. Thank you.
I really don't do stuff like that, and I'm trying to be a good community
Okay.
responsible, and so, yeah, but y'all had a hard decision. I really respect it.
Well,
Much
thank you for
appreciated.
being kind.
So I
Have a
will
good
tell
evening.
you that.
Well, I think we were all at fault here. And everything got pinned on Don, $5,000. But I'll tell you what the $5,000 did. As y'all remember me being here a month ago with Woodrose, right? The subdivision, 16 rooftops. That 5,000 just cost the city 6 million in rooftops. I'm gonna take my money and I'm gonna go somewhere else. So I'm gonna shelve that, Mitchell. I know you went against it every time. You got your wish, and that's what I'm gonna do.
Next item on the agenda, discussion and action on appointment of Associate Municipal Court Judge Zachary Carter. Council, you have any questions? Now then entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move that we appoint Associate Municipal Judge Zachary Carter.
Need a second?
I'll second that motion.
And what does Anna need?
Oh. We got to prove it first. Oh.
We have to approve him first. No, come on. Motion been made, and I think it was seconded, was it? I need a, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, motion approved. Zachary, come on down. And who's gonna swear him in?
Can or I can, whichever one.
Come, I don't. You can. Come on.
So we're gonna do the statement of office. I'll just have you state your name. I
Zachary Carter,
do solemnly swear that you have not directly or indirectly paid, offered, promised to pay, contributed, or promised to contribute any money or thing of value, or promised any public office or employment for giving or withholding a vote at the election at which you were elected, or as a reward to secure your appointment or confirmation, whichever the case may be, so help you God.
I swear.
And then that is the oath. Name and by the authority of the state of Texas, I
I, Zachary Carter,
do solemnly swear that you will faithfully execute the duties of the office of City of Smithville Associate Judge of the State of Texas and will, to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution and laws of the United States and the state of, and this state, so help me God.
I swear.
Do you have a speech prepared?
I don't think I need to give one after tonight, but thank you all for inviting me to the council. I do have a question before I sit down. Just out of curiosity, why do you have Bush's beans on the?
We collect for the food pantry.
I see. Okay, that makes sense.
One of the council member brings,
Turn your mic on.
one of the council member brings something, a can of food for everyone each time.
This is my first time, so thank you guys for
This is to keep the audience from throwing things at us. We already have it up here.
deterrence. Well, thank you all very much.
And you're on call.
Yeah.
We're gonna go on to the next item. Discussion and action on awarding a contract for engineering services for the DOE GRG grant project.
Okay, Council Mayor, this is kind of a carryover from last month when we actually awarded the grant administration contract to Langford Management Services. We did do an RFQ, but no one responded. We've since put that advertisement back into the paper in June. We did a request for proposals, request for qualifications for engineering services. Put it on a bunch of listservs, and in the paper, there was one engineering services consultant that turned in a bid packet, and that was Ward, Getz and Associates, also known as WGA. And what this project is going to do, it's a Department of Energy Grid Resiliency Grant. And the project we would like to pursue would be improvements of the SL30 feeder line into the city. We have 3. That feeder line feeds the downtown area. In addition to improving that feeder line, we want to put the overhead lines in the alley underground. So if you choose to do so and award this engineering contract to WGA, we can get started on giving a more definitive estimate with which we can apply for the grant.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, so we will go ahead and contract with them now before we know if we get awarded the grant so they can put together the work. And what's the total dollars? It's probably in there someplace
1.5
for the engineer.
Oh, engineer, there's no dollars. The RFQs, you don't put dollars until after. Typically it's 8%, 8 to 10%, but there's no, in an RFQ that you don't talk dollars.
Okay, so we don't know how much yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor, if I may, I believe I asked this at the last meeting, but we've got and I'm totally in favor of this. We've got a $500,000 to $700,000 match we've got to plan for. Do we know how far in the future we're going to have to deal with that?
This is 18 months to 2 years out. The Department of Energy and most of the federal grants take some time to navigate, and we're not guaranteed. It is a competitive award. So even if we do get it and we choose not to do so, we can pull out.
I believe, yeah, you told me that last time. I don't know if I'll make it to the next election anyway. Thank you.
Well, that's a note should, yes.
Well,
Well, why don't you make us a motion then, Mitch?
I've lost.
We're on number 15.
Mayor, may I make a motion?
Yes.
I move we approve awarding a contract for engineering services for the DOECRG grant project.
I'll second it.
Motion's been
You have to
made
put
and-
two, who you awarding it to, please. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just reading off of the, okay, let me restate the motion if I may.
You just need to add.
Sorry.
Mayor, I move that we award a contract for engineering services for the DOECRG grant project to, where is it?
It's in big letters. Ward.
Ward Getz and Associates. I had to go down 2 paragraphs. PLLC WGA.
Motion been made in second. All in favor? Motion is approved. Number 16. Discussion and action on allowing Marie and John Easty to place a building on city property for cats to have shelter at the Oak Hill Cemetery.
Okay, Council Mayor, last month, Marie Easty and John Easty actually came and gave a presentation as to what they wanted to do. And it was an open comment, so we added it onto the agenda. So here we are. They would like to donate an 8x8 shed to be placed next to the new storage building that we have out at Oak Hill Cemetery for cats. Those cats' names are Rory, Ramona, Gracie, and Morris. Basically, the cats lost their home when we tore down the old building to construct the new building to allow more room for equipment, the maintenance equipment that we need to maintain Oak Hill Cemetery. They say that once the cats are no longer using the 8x8 shed, they will be happy to donate that to the city free of charge. Until that time, they will be responsible for the upkeep and maintenance of that building and, of course, the cats, should you choose to approve the donation.
Recall today that she is tested positive for COVID and she is sorry that she could not be here, but I told her it was nice that she just stay home. So, council, you have any questions?
Yeah, question.
Go ahead.
You were gonna make a
No,
motion?
you go
I'm
ahead.
gonna ask a question.
Okay.
The liability, and I don't want to be a hater of cats here, okay?
Better not, because I'm
But-
sitting next to you.
But I do want to make sure we understand, is there a precedent, have we ever accepted property like this to house cats? With cats being such an issue in the city of Smithfield, do we want to be supporting and I mean, is that what we want to do? Have we ever done that before?
I am not aware of anyone donating or a city accepting a building for cats at this time.
So city property, right? On the
It'll
property
be
land,
on,
okay.
Oak Hill is city property, yes.
So is there some sort of legal document that says they own the improvements and they're required to take care of them? And then at what point does it become the city, or can we move it off if we decide it's a health hazard, or if we determine that we don't want it there anymore? Is there any thoughts given to that, or am I overthinking
This is new
that?
territory.
Okay.
And I have.
I mean, I'm, yeah, I don't.
She wishes she could have been here to address those questions, but they pretty much, the lover, the Easties and the people who love these cats are going to take care of the cats and the building until the cats aren't there anymore.
If I can just say that I suspect there's going to be a motion here in a second and a vote on this. And so I would just ask that motion include, or I may include at least legal review to make sure that we have the appropriate documentation to make sure we're protected.
That,
I mean, just.
that begs a question for me of the city attorney being in the insurance industry. If someone's cat is living in there and
They
something.
get
happens to
rabies
the
and they
cat,
get bit or they get scratched or something. I mean, what's the deal? I mean, I'm assuming we're covered under our TML liability policy, but what's your recommendation, counselor?
Put on your animal control, member.
So in terms of the proper arrangement, we can definitely do that. It'd be a license agreement. And in that we would require indemnification, et cetera, as we normally do for just about every other kind of agreement. In terms of city liability, that is whether or not it's covered by TML, the question for TML. Whether or not we'd be liable for anything that happened on that property. Yeah.
What if a cat named Susie shows up? Does Susie get to
I
use
mean,
the
that's-
facility
that's
too,
the-
or is
that's
it
the
just
thing
limited to those
keep in
three?
mind
things?
is,
Hooks up in Morris?
I don't know how we're gonna,
Manage it, regulate it.
how are we gonna keep possums out?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't keep them out of my shed.
I'm concerned it becomes a drop-off point for people who don't like their cats. And I love the project. I'm just bringing out.
And I can tell you that there are similar, like I've seen, property developers do similar things. Specifically for cats, there's an organization, and I cannot remember the name, but I remember where my office used to be, we had one kind of set in the back for the cats. And I know Walmart's done it before, other developers, and there's specific organizations, they do spay and neuter, and but they also sort of maintain these shelters. So it's not something that's uncommon. I would be surprised if there's nobody out there citywide doing it. But this is a new one for me, as far as them donating a building for that purpose. Liability, I mean, they're not the city's animals, and the cemetery is a public sort of, I don't know about cemeteries are funny animals. No pun intended, but I can't believe I just said that. So cemeteries have very special rules that apply to them. Municipally owned property has very special rules that apply to it. So this is actually a pretty interesting topic. I'd be happy to do a paper on it, but maybe for the next city attorneys
I
association.
don't think we can afford you.
Yeah, no, you probably don't want to, but there may be some issues with liability, but I would imagine that the city's protected by its immunity as well as our insurance.
If we did something and the motion had the caveat that it needed to be reviewed and blessed through our insurance, and that we had an agreement that gave us a unilateral termination rights for any, at our sole discretion. That way, if city manager determined for any reason that it was no longer a deal, that we could terminate it and have them remove it within a certain period of time.
Yeah,
That at least
it's a
gives us
license
the ability,
agreement.
if we have a problem, that we're not stuck with it, that we can terminate it.
Right.
It's at least something, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and that would be a license agreement.
I think she also said that all the cats were fixed, right? That they take care of them.
Yeah, they are.
And I mean, even if some, big Tom wanders in and she's feeding him. Yeah, right.
Turned into
That-
a session.
Okay, Tom, give us a motion of all the words you just.
Kathy.
After what you just said, there's no way I can do that motion. No, I'll
Give
try.
me
Tyrone?
Tyrone says no.
Okay, I'll give it a
Come
try.
on.
Okay. If I can find out where I am on this page.
We're number
Um,
16.
I make a motion to allow Marie and John Eatsy to place a building on city property for cats to have shelter at the Oak Hill Cemetery, provided we discuss and have the proper legal instruments in place to protect the city
License agreement.
and a license agreement.
Anybody want to second her?
I'll second that.
A motion's been made in second. All in favor? Approved.
Got the cat's breastfeeding.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one about the Tomcat, though. Discussion and action on Texas Community Development Block Grant, TXCD, BG Program of 2023 Fast Fund Rural Outreach and Wellness.
Is Suzanne Bernard here?
Suzanne, she hang in?
Thank you so much for hanging out and hanging in. Yes. So Council and Mayor, this is a project that the Texas CDBG, the director, Suzanne Bernard, came to the city and asked if we would be a sponsor in support of putting in 18 SUVs within our district. Basically utilize us as a sponsoring city to provide non-emergency transport within a dedicated area to supplement what we have currently. I think it's an honor, the CDBG has been good to us over the years, and when they knocked on the door, I answered, and I hope you listen to their presentation. They're going to go through what the project is and what the implications are should you choose to enter into this program.
Thank you so much. My name is Suzanne Bernard. I'm the director for the CDBG, the Community Development Block Grant Program at Department of Agriculture. I have a couple of colleagues with me. Christian Campbell is also with the CDBG program, and Eva Cruz is with the State Office of Rural Health. So this project is a little bit unique. So that's why we're approaching you instead of the other way around, the way that grants typically work. The State Office of Rural Health has been focused on community-based health services for the last little bit. We've been looking at, my notes out here. The non-emergency services, community-based healthcare services are intended to fill gaps in primary care delivery. This is not emergency services. It's not your ambulance services. It can also assist with health management, especially for those populations that are really challenging in terms of those social determinants of health, chronic health conditions. And then community engagement and preventative healthcare, those kinds of services is what we're talking about. We've seen evidence in other studies of effectively reducing hospital readmissions and improving patient outcomes. We recently did a project in another part of the state where we were able to put SUVs out into the field with organizations that were providing these services, and we're seeing great returns on that. We have an opportunity to do that one more time. So that's what we're looking at. So that's how we're approaching this. This is a partnership between the State Office of Rural Health and CDBG program. We're both programs within TDA, so we work collaboratively together. You are familiar with CDBG from other projects. Right now we have the Innovation Center project with CDBG funds, which we thought would make this a good fit for the city to be able to work on these two different kinds of pilot programs simultaneously. We did select, and if you see the photo there, that is an example of the vehicles we purchased the last time we did this project. I'm sorry, it was one pack. So this is an example of what we purchased. It's just a basic SUV, but it's been outfitted in a way that works for that kind of program. So, all right. Well, so the project is intended to purchase 18 SUVs. Now, not all 18 are going to be in Smithville, but the Smithville Hospital, that'd be a lot of services, which would be fantastic. But they're not all going to go in the city of Smithville. I'm sorry. The State Office of Rural Health put out a poll with the health facilities that's within its purview to see which health facilities were in a position to take advantage of this kind of opportunity if we were to purchase a vehicle for them. There are 18 of them that responded that they were in that kind of position. One of those is Ascension Seton here in Smithville. So they will be invited to participate in this program whenever we're able to take the next step in it. But you can see here on the map, the other places in the state where those 18 would be distributed. And if a particular service is able to use more than one, that is a conversation we can have. But at this point, from the responses, we're expecting that one per entity is likely to be appropriate. Back to the CDBG program, one of the programs we have in place right now is the Fire Ambulance and Service Truck Fund, also called the FAST Fund. This is the S in FAST. This is the service piece of the FAST Fund. So that's how we're able to fund this, is through this existing program that we already have. So we're putting these pieces together in a way that will work for the federal, the state, and the programmatic requirements. To make that work, however, we are hoping to have one community serve as the sponsor for the entire state program. So one entity would be responsible for accepting the grant funds from TDA, for conducting the procurement for all 18 vehicles and for managing the distribution of those vehicles. The service providers, however, are the ones actually doing the service. Smithville's not providing services in 18 communities across the state, but would be the sponsoring grant recipient, because we can't actually give funding to a hospital. We have to give funding to a city or a county. What this will look like is we'll have one grant recipient. We call it the anchor community or the sponsoring community. We'll have 18 health service providers, hospital districts, counties that own their own hospitals. There are a variety of different organizations. That's estimated because we're going to take exactly the vehicle's cost and make sure that the grant covers that amount. So there's a little bit of flexibility until that final cost is set, that we can make sure that the grant is going to cover that full amount. There are no matching costs here. This is not a matching grant. This is fully funded by the state. And in addition to that, there's up to $50,000 for administrative costs. That could be a third-party service provider, a CDBG certified administrator, like you use on some of the other projects. It could be local city employees. It could be a combination of the two. Depends on how complex you feel this is and what you feel best meets your needs. We've set aside a budget of up to $50,000 to cover those costs. So what would,
Do you want us to wait? Can I ask a couple quick questions so I don't forget them? In a nutshell,
in
call it $1 million. $1 million. Smithfield is the sponsoring grantee.
Mhm.
We get the $1 million. We're responsible for procuring the 18 vehicles. So we have to go out and find them and price them and negotiate that. And then we buy them with those dollars. And then we have to get them to the service providers.
So we do expect to have a significant amount of technical assistance from TDA to help coordinate all of this, because there's a lot of moving parts here that are not typical for one of our grants.
So how many different service providers do you expect would have the 18 vehicles? 18?
Probably 18.
Okay, so we got
service-
18 different entities, all nonprofits?
Some of them are county governments that own a hospital. Some of them are districts, and some of them are,
So who has the title to the vehicle and who's responsible for maintenance and all of that? Insurance?
that's on my next.
Okay, perfect. Then I'll shut up for now.
But real quick on this slide, what are the responsibilities for the city would be is executing the grant with TDA, executing a subrecipient agreement with those service providers to connect the dots, because we can't contract with those service providers. So that would be the connection. There's some additional paperwork to coordinate a lot of that. There's standard grant requirements that would have to be met, hence the $50,000 administrative cost. And the city would be submitting the actual application as well. So we do recommend using buy board or one of the other third-party cooperative purchasing options to simplify the process. We've done some research on exactly what vehicles seem to meet that requirement. You're welcome to use our research. You're welcome to do your own. If you choose to be the sponsor, you can, you're responsible for the procurement. So you can ask us to do that, facilitate that, or you can do it on your own, depending on your own level of comfort. That makes sense? But we don't anticipate this being something where we say, please go make it happen, and then we walk away. That is not the case at all. Okay, so there's two pieces of documentation that have to go with each of the 18 service providers. One is an acknowledgement by the other community that this is happening in their community. It is not appropriate for a city to go into another community and start providing services. That would not be appropriate for someone to do to Smithville. So we wouldn't expect Smithville to do that to anyone else. So we will be coordinating with the other counties to get them to acknowledge, so you won't have to do that piece, that this statewide project is being sponsored by Smithville and they are participating in the project. There's no cost that goes with that, but we want to make sure the other local government is aware of what is happening. Second, there is the actual formal subrecipient agreement with the health service provider. We will help coordinate that as well. We have a sample document. Obviously, your legal team would want to review that, make edits potentially as needed, but we at least have a starting point to go with that. And we're happy to provide as much assistance as you'd like for that. There are standard requirements that have to go with the subrecipient agreement. And then there are other elements that are up to the city's discretion.
Robert, do we have the staff to manage and administer something? This sounds pretty.
Yeah, this is what I intended to recommend for your consideration. Is that we would go out to bid to find a grant administrator to manage this accordingly. So I'm sorry. Hold on. Okay. So we would go out to, if you want, do you have something to speak? I mean, sign up. You're blowing my mind here. So hold on. There's people like Langford Grant Works that manage these projects all the time. They're good at doing that. We've worked with several of them.
Yes.
And my intent would be, no, we're not going to do this in-house. We're going to ask for an RFP for somebody to come in and do everything that she's asking to do. We're just to anchor community.
Correct.
And again, when CDBG calls, I mean, thank you for all the generosity and the grants that we've had. I just felt there's an opportunity for us to give a little back to the organization that's given us so much.
I think it's a wonderful opportunity. I probably have merged this in my head somewhere about there's 50,000 involved to help administer. Or we would have to go get a separate grant to pay for the administration.
Well, included in this grant would be a budget line item for up to $50,000. It is cost reimbursable, so it's not just a $50,000 check. It is reimbursable cost. So
Okay.
if your contract with a third party is for $50,000, the grant would be covering that.
So all I'm really concerned with is what kind of residual or tail responsibility or liability we have as a city. And it sounds like, if I hear it right, we're just the sponsor, anchor community, I think is what you call it, a sponsor community that works directly with you because you can't work directly with the service providers.
Mhm.
So we get the 900 million, we can use the 50 to hire a Langford or someone else if we want to and pass through all of that upfront work. Is there 18 or more people that would qualify, that would be ready to sign on the dotted line and take one of the vehicles? So we're not out trying to find people to take the vehicle?
You would not be responsible for finding people to take vehicles. There are 18 entities that have responded. Now, we can't invite them to actually take the next step and confirm that they're going to participate until we have.
So do they get title to the vehicle? We transfer it to them and then
Yes.
we're out of the game?
You're done.
Okay. Yeah. So once we find 18 people and sign a
Eva's already found 18. Eva's found them.
You won't have to find it.
yeah, I know. Once we execute those delivery of those vehicles to them, then we're out of it. We're done.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, when this was done, like I said, this is the second time we've done this kind of a project. When we did it before, that county chose to take delivery of all of the vehicles themselves. And their insurance covered that until those could be picked up. It doesn't have to be the way that this works out. We can talk through how that works when we talk about the contract to purchase the vehicles, where those are going to be delivered, because this is a very wide geographic area. So we can figure out, does everyone need to come to pick up their own vehicle from here? Do they get delivered to multiple places? That can be arranged depending on the city's comfort level and what the vendor is able to provide.
Does the grant require any audits on the use of the vehicle, or and who is responsible for doing those audits and reporting?
The health services provider is responsible for 5 years of reporting,
Okay, so not Smithville.
not Smithville.
What, if you don't mind me, Suzanne, if you happen, typically the grant administrative services companies charge a percentage of the total grant. What happens if it's more than 50,000? I don't want the city to be on the hook for anything.
We do not want the city to be on the hook for any dollars. Right now, we have flexibility in terms of what exactly this grant total amount is. We've actually overestimated slightly what we think the cost. So that $1 million is a little more than what we think the vehicle amount times 18 is. So there is flexibility built in if we need to move some funding into that administrative line item. I don't know that for this particular type of project, because it's not construction, so we don't have those kind of construction federal requirements, that those fees would be substantially different than what we see in other projects, but it depends on what they're willing to offer.
And we need it.
I mean, I think it sounds great as long as we don't have a responsibility or a tail to audit and have ongoing, management responsibilities. I think it's a great thing and would love to, if it helps you, I think it would be great for us to do that.
Yes, I agree. Any questions?
Would you entertain a motion?
Will you give me one?
I brought Eva. Don't you have questions for Eva?
I think we're good. Really?
We're sold. Our heads are nodding yes. That's when you stop. Mayor, I'd like to move.
Out though. Go ahead. Give it to us, Mitch.
Mayor, I'd like to move, we approve the city serving as the anchor community for the Texas Community Development Block Grant Program 2023 Fast Fund Rural Outreach and Wellness.
Motion's been made and second. All in favor? Motion is approved.
We'll be in touch.
I just want to thank y'all. It's because this is going to provide a lot of healthcare services to a lot of people in rural areas all over the state. So thank y'all.
Thank you. I think we're on 18, aren't we? Discussion and action on a community development Block Grant Mitigation Program interlocal agreement between Bastrop County and the city of Smithville.
Okay, Mayor and Council, this is what's formerly referred to as Hurricane Harvey CDBG Mid-Mod. So the mitigation funds, method of distribution. There were monies allocated in response to Hurricane Harvey. And we were awarded an aggregate between Bastrop County and Smithville, $4.362 million. The city received 2.4 million of that, and the county will provide 1.5 million. We originally did an interlocal agreement that had to be modified to allow the city to act on behalf of both the county and the city throughout the application process. What this project is for, if you can scroll up on the screen, Jennifer, it's to do basically drainage improvements in and around the high school, Jones Road, Harper, and Webster Streets. Uh-oh. Well, picture this in your mind.
It's a triangle.
Yeah. So they're going to upsize the detention pond, clear out, they have like an on-site creek that needs to be cleaned, so it will flow. Adding conveyances and underground infrastructure to allow the drainage to drain to Gasly. So in aggregate, it's a $3.9 million project with no match. So if you approve the ILA, again, it will allow the city of Smithville to work on behalf of both the county and the city getting through the application and award process, which is 6 to 9 months out still, just FYI.
But it's correcting the flooding that's happening back on Bunty Road.
So,
Jones.
and
Yeah.
we'll, at the end of all of this, the city of Smithville will have ownership of everything that's done upon completion of the project.
Actually, just for the city, the work it's a joint project with the SISD.
Mhm.
They've also agreed to participate, but they will own the maintenance of the pond with which they already own. That's next to 7th in
Okay.
Washington. Anything going into the city access or right of way, we will maintain, but the majority of this is actually on school property.
Okay, I was just going by this,
Yes, go.
10, the interest and ownership of project and how it says that, so.
Mayor, you'll make a motion. Move that we approve the interlocal agreement between Bastrop County and the city of Smithville for the Community Development Block Grant Mitigation Program.
I'll second.
Motion been made in second. All in favor? 1, 2. Motion is approved. Number 19, discussion and action on short-term rental ordinance.
Okay, Councilman, to set this up, the last workshop we had, there was a lot of modifications done to the proposed short-term rental ordinance. Jason took your feedback, went back and made a new document for your consideration tonight.
And I'm available, y'all, we workshopped this, the direction was a leaner ordinance, directed towards, registration and collection of hotel occupancy taxes. And that's what I've done. I revised it significantly, take out some of the regulations about parking and things like that, that you indicated, we weren't interested in. And now it's a fairly lean, ordinance.
Did you do everything we asked you to?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Jason, we talked about what the permit fees would be, but we never really decided on those that's correct. We talked about $50, but we didn't vote on that or.
Right.
have
The
further
way it is in the ordinance, it just says that they'll be established by resolution of city council. And y'all we could do that tonight. I can just put it in there as a number, or we could adopt it as part of our fee schedule that we have for everything else. It's just whatever y'all want to do.
Okay, thank you.
Councilperson Meek, I thought we had said we were going to do this on the fee schedule, which I'm fine either way. I'm just trying to clarify what we had discussed.
On a fee
You want to
schedule.
set it now, or we want to do it as a part of the general fee schedule?
Well, what is the fee schedule? I mean, it's just the application fee and the renewal fee?
The fee schedule is something that we do every year. Sometimes there's increases, sometimes there's not, but it's what the council establishes to prevent you from having to put dollar amounts in your ordinances that have to be updated when you update them.
Okay,
So the fee schedule is kind of an annual
rolling kind of.
Yes, it's a budget. Or you can, or you can set it here.
It makes no difference to me.
Just set it at the budget.
Yeah, and I,
But let me interject. If you do that, these special use permits that you're going to require for short-term rental, we won't have direction. So I want you to discuss that, work that out. If you want this, if you adopt this ordinance tonight and we haven't adopted a fee schedule, then nobody can apply for a special use permit. Correct?
you doing this as a special use permit?
I haven't slept since then. Forget it. I'm thinking about cats.
Okay.
Move on.
I think the decision by the council was to allow it by right in all residential districts, if I'm not mistaken.
Jason, repeat that, please.
So what I recall from our workshop was that the council wanted to allow it as a matter of right in all residential districts. So what we're gonna have to do is, if y'all are good with this ordinance, I mean, this is a zoning ordinance, so we're gonna have to go through P and Z and all of that, but part of that will include revising our table of uses to allow this.
That makes sense, everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so-
Mayor, before you go, I'd like to say something. We started this process of discussing short-term rental ordinance over a year ago. At that time, myself and then council member Janice Bruno both owned short-term rental properties in Smithville. At the time that discussion originally started, both her and I disclosed that we owned properties in Smithville that were short-term rental. Since, and we inquired as to whether there was a potential conflict. There was never any official determination made or recommendation, but it was felt at the time that because of the definition of conflict, that there wasn't, that we could participate, which we both did. That participation continued through this last meeting. As I've done more research, I think that the matter of whether it's a conflict for me, who I believe is the only council member that currently owns a property with short-term rental, could go either way. I think what the definition of conflict hinges on whether or not there is a reasonably foreseeable expectation that I would have value accrue to me as a result of an ordinance that would be distinguishable from the general public. And I think a strong argument could be made that it's impossible for anyone to tell until an ordinance is actually done whether there would be any value and what that value would be and whether it would be uniquely distinguishable to me versus anybody that owns residential property. So I think that there's a strong case to be made that there isn't a conflict, but I have always operated out of an abundance of caution. And so I'm going to abstain from the vote, and I've submitted the appropriate paperwork to Jennifer to support that.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve the action on the short-term rental ordinance.
I'll second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded on the discussion and action on short-term rental ordinance. All in favor? And Councilman Etheridge has abstained and the vote is approved. Is that correct? Okay. You have that, Jennifer? Thank you. Discussion and action on boards and commission handbooks.
Okay, Council Mayor, this was a move from actually just pushed out from the last council meeting to give more time for everyone to review the boards and commissions handbook. And it's back before you again. If you have any comments or questions, legal or otherwise, Jason is here and up for discussion.
Go ahead.
I'll start. I guess I just want clarification. You've talked to me offline, so I just, for the benefit of colleagues, this is really a handbook. It's really an assimilation of a lot of different things that feels more like an employee handbook or a guidebook than it is a series of ordinances or rules and regulations. Can you help us understand what kind of governance document this is and whether this becomes part of our rules and regulations that have to be followed and who follows them and how do we deal with some of the issues in here for boards and commissions for the city council? Because I think this document doesn't address any action or behavior on the part of city council members. Is that correct?
This document does not apply to city council.
Okay, so the behavior and action for city council and city council members, is that exclusively governed by state law? Or is there an opportunity for us to to address similar types of things like whistleblower and filing of complaints and the process for, dispute resolution, things like that for the city council.
Yeah, there's an opportunity to do that for the city council. It's fairly common for cities to have what they call ethics ordinances that set all that out as it applies to the city
So
council.
that's not what this is. This
That
is
is not what
totally
this is.
exclusive of city council. This is just for boards and commissions.
That is correct. This does not apply to city council, and it's essentially a compilation of all the ordinances and statutes, a compilation and distillation of what they are saying, all right, members of the boards, these are the rules that apply to you. Most of those are codified, either in city ordinance or in state law. So for example, there's sections on conflicts of interest. There's
171, yeah.
Yeah.
There's
So-
references to that.
Yeah, and there's sections on Open Meetings Act, et
Yeah.
cetera.
So does this document, Robert, exist today? And if so, how is this different? Is there a red line to what exists today?
Yeah, initially started out when we created the application for boards and commissions. We had a handbook then. It's been revised since then. That document was like 12, 20 years old, boards and handbooks. Yes, so it's gone through now 3 iterations. And this is the where we are today.
So is it appropriate? I mean, there's a couple things in here that I personally felt pretty strongly about. One was a discussion over whether city employees, particularly department heads, should be allowed to serve on boards and commissions without approval of the city council. And the reasoning behind that is the potential for conflicts of interest. And so for me personally, I would prefer for any city employees, particularly a department head, that wants to serve on a board and commission, even a quasi one like workforce training or the chamber. Again, this doesn't deal with city council. I think there's a different initiative for that, at least if they're going to be permitted to serve, that they have to come to the council and that has to be approved. So there's full transparency on that. And the council has an opportunity to ask them questions about how much they spend their time on the two and whether there's a potential conflict for them. That's one thing.
Okay, so I'll tell you within this document, that's not addressed, and that's really more appropriate for an actual ordinance relative to employees and
Okay.
what they can and can't.
Okay, perfect. So this is not the place for that. Okay.
No, I would put something like that, possibly in maybe not necessarily the ethics ordinance, but
Employee handbook, maybe?
Employee handbook.
maybe the employee handbook. We'd have to kind of look and see where that, depending on what rules you want to put in place, where it should go. I would say the default would be in an ordinance. And I know it's not uncommon to have that
Yeah.
provisions.
To Councilmember Etheridge's point, there have been times when city employees haven't been appointed by the council to various boards and commissions.
Right.
So.
Right. So, and I'm just going to go through a few questions real quick, if that's okay. There's references in this handbook to the city having the right to review budgets for Smithville Hospital Authority and Smithville Housing Authority. That's a reference in this handbook. Do we in fact get their budgets and review them? And so if we don't do it, we probably shouldn't include it in the handbook unless we're proposing to do it, which I think would be great, but are they obligated to give them to us?
I really don't know the answer. I'm not intimately familiar with those boards and they're separate legal entities. And I'd have to look at our code to see what it says, but I would say most of the things that are in here are in our code.
They are?
Yeah, as far as the board is concerned, either that or I've pulled it from like the Texas Health and Safety Code. If we want to pull it out, we could pull it out.
Well, if in fact we are able and we have the right to require that from them, then I think that's good. I mean, I think the more transparency we as a city council and by extension, the public can have into the finances of organizations that are aligned closely with the city, whether it's workforce training, whether it's Smithville Housing Authority, whether it's hospital authority, all of those things, I think that would be good for accountability and transparency. So I'm all for it being in here. I'm just asking, do we have the right to get it? And if so, do we get it?
I would never seen the financials of the hospital authority or housing authority.
I would be, if you ask them, I doubt very seriously, my sentiments is they're going to tell you, no, you're not going to get it, period.
Yeah.
That's my sentiments about it.
So my question is, we appoint let's just use hospital authority as an example. We appoint 3 of the 7 board members. So it's not a majority, but we clearly have a fairly significant amount of influence with the hospital board. Again, I'm not here to debate whether they should or shouldn't give them to us. I think it would be a good idea if they did. I'm just saying, if we don't get them or we don't think we have a right to, then it shouldn't be in the handbook.
So I'll tell you, I'm looking at this provision. I think this may have been something that was in the handbook to begin with. If you want me to confirm, yes, you do have that authority, or no, you don't, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think anywhere in the handbook where it says we're getting something from these other people, we should make sure that number one, we have the right to, and number two, they'll give them to us, which I assume they will if we have the right to get them.
I agree.
Did I hear you correctly a minute ago? You said this is basically for the employees of the city, right?
It's for the members of the boards.
Okay, member of the boards. Well, when I'm looking at the code of ethics, it says officer means a member of city council or
Right.
board, things like that. That kind of and confusing to me. So I'm trying to figure out how that's going to apply if it doesn't apply to the city council. And the ethics, chapter 5 says officer means a member of the city council or a board. It declares on later that we will not try to use our officer's position to secure special privileges. I know it's an ethics, chapter. I have no problem.
Yeah, this probably, that reference to city council should probably be taken out.
Okay, thank you.
And then, I'm sorry, Mayor, if I may interject. And so then we would move forward and put on a future agenda that we would develop an ethics policy for the council, correct?
I think it's a great idea. I'm in support of that. I think we ought to not require of boards and commissions the same stuff we don't require of ourselves,
Agreed.
subject to state law being obviously taken precedent.
Yeah, and as a general law city, I wonder how far we can do and what we can do with that.
I'd have
because
to look, that was one of my initial thoughts when you mentioned that as a general law city, what are our limitations, if any? And I'll look into it.
There's for removal of officers, things like that. It's pretty well set forth at the state level. But that doesn't mean that you can't have a complaint process and a process for who serves on an ethics committee and makes a determination, even though you may not be able to take any action. You can certainly raise the issue and have some transparency on it.
And the firm I recently joined, we have several clients that we do these sort of ethics. Number one, we've drafted their ethics ordinances, and number two, we help them, do their investigations and things like that. So I'm sure I can find you an answer relatively quickly.
Can we set that for a future agenda as a follow-up? I'm asking permission.
Yeah, let's, why don't we table this and let the city manager work with with Jason and maybe clean this up and represent this, and maybe at the same time, give us maybe a prospective timeline for how we develop one, if not concurrently for the city council, and look at them both at the same time.
I would support a move to table.
Okay, and so as far as this document, what do we need to address?
Well, I think at a minimum, you should go through with the city manager and find out any place in there where it references that there are things that these other organizations are going to give to us that we should make sure that they are obligated to and that we actually get them and can get them. I think taking out the reference to city council is Councilmember Jenkins. I think that was the reason I asked whether it was applicable, because I had the same concern. Is it makes a couple references, so it implies that some of this may apply to city council members.
Yeah, that should have been taken out from the beginning. Because I remember looking at that and saying, no, because that was the city, that initial reference to city council was in the original one. That should have been taken out. I apologize for missing that.
So, if do we need a motion to table? Is that what we need, Mayor? Do you need a motion to table, Jennifer? Or just agreement to table? Okay.
Yeah, motion table,
Motion.
certain, right?
You want to? Are there citizens here to speak on this? If so, we should let them speak, I think. Okay.
Judy, come forward. Please come. Yes, please.
Yeah, before she gets there, one of the other things on my list was, maybe you look at is potential standardization of residency requirements across all the boards and commissions. I know we have an exception for a certain board or commission. I think it may be the long name, where you own property in town, you can serve, but the others are residency. It would be nice if we could have some sort of consistent residency requirement. Okay.
That was what I was going to address. Judy Bergeron, the library director. I also work with the Library Advisory Board. But page 6, section 2.3, eligibility and qualifications, it states that all board members must be city residents, but the library serves outside the city limits as well. The hospital serves outside the city limits. So would it be appropriate to say city residents or within the ETJ, within the service district?
I mean, for me personally, since funding is such a big part of these organizations, particularly library, I mean, to me, it would be appropriate maybe to set aside a minority number of board members that could be outside and a majority be inside, and maybe some at large. I think that's the way that we would typically classify different board positions is, you know, you could have appointed positions, and then you could have a residency requirement for a certain number of them, and you could have some that serve at large, and you could make it even within the county if you wanted to.
So, sir, I'm sorry, interject.
Yeah.
So
I'm just
so
talking.
we're defining a service area, which is be kind of hard to define, or within the county.
Well, it would depend. We'd have to come up with what the boundary would be. I would say, you know, there's certain boards and commissions that lend themselves more to a broader scope than the city
Yeah.
limits. And I
Judy,
think
what do
that's
you
her
think
point.
about
Yeah, what do you think?
Service area.
The state library defines our library service area as concurrent with the school district area. So
There's the answer.
Yeah. And that would be.
Airport Advisory Board, do we have everybody lives there? Okay.
I just think we need to be careful when we fund these organizations. The funds that pay for these come from the citizens of Smithville. We have the same discussion philosophically when we dealt with the recycle center, you know, where we have cities funded services that other people take advantage of. And up until recently, there wasn't a direct funding mechanism for those people outside the city. The permits now do that, or that Jimmy and Tyrone developed. But yeah, I just think we have to be careful that you maintain some, you know, substantial number of board members, majority maybe that are residents. So you have that accountability to the people that are actually maybe paying the taxes that provide the funding.
When I,
Good, Jennifer?
when I look at this, when it says Smithville Hospital Authority, and when you talk about, you know, can we have their stuff? It says they're a separate political body from the city and governed by a board of directors. To me, that means they don't have to give us anything they don't want to.
That may or may not be true.
Again, that's why I asked the question of you.
Yeah, so I'm gonna confirm that there, specifically the hospital authority and housing authority are governed by specific state statutes that provide certain things. So I'll look at those and confirm it. The other thing to keep in mind is most of those, they're governmental entities. So if you want stuff, you just ask them for it. They have to give it to you.
Yeah, they're subject to open meeting. They're subject to all of these things.
Okay.
Do you want to, you wanted a motion, didn't you? Do you care if I make the motion to table? Okay, Mayor, make a motion that we table this to allow the city manager to consult as appropriate with general counsel and resubmit this for consideration along with an outline for an ethics ordinance for city council members. What time, city manager, do you want? 1 month, 2 months? What would you like to have in terms of time? Would next month's meeting be too soon? Or you draft by next month?
And possibly a draft. Like I said, we've drafted several of these in my
Yeah.
office.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of what's gonna fit city best.
You okay with till the next scheduled council meeting? All right. And I guess we need to vote on that second.
Do we need to vote on it?
That's a motion.
To table?
I second it.
You want to put, okay, city manager requests that date be pushed to September. So I'll amend the motion in the date to September instead of August.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded. All in favor, to push till September is approved. Okay, discussion and action on an ordinance changing street signs in the Arbix Village and Kingsway, Joy Lane and Faith Lane to 1700 Southeast 4th Street.
Okay, Council Mayor, this is an issue that happens at the Roving Volunteers in Christ Service Plan Development District, RVIX as we commonly know it. There's been some delays with getting emergency services personnel there because of the address. What they have on file was actually 1800 Southeast 4th. What you're considering tonight is changing the names of Kingsway, Joy Lane, and Faith Lane to 1700 Southeast 4th Street to clear up these issues with 911 addressing so that emergency response personnel can go to the right location.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we change the street signs in the Arvix Village from Kingsway, Joy Lane, and Faith Lane to 1700 Southeast Fourth Street.
I second that motion.
Motion been made and second. All in favor? Motion is approved. Discussion and action on
22,
June.
yeah.
Which one now?
We're 22, yeah?
No?
22, yes.
Discussion and action on, okay. Discussion and action on continued use of the city council message board.
Okay, Councilman Jameson asked me to put this on the agenda and he wants to get input regarding its continued use. Go.
I was waiting on the mayor. Thank you, Mayor.
What do you want me to do?
My bad.
Nothing. I was just waiting on permission to speak. Thank you. I'll say.
Okay, we're ready. Rattle on.
I can set this up. And I can do it rather quickly. I personally had watched and have been asked by people in the community because of the push that the council had had to create a city council message board. The fact is we're not using it. And the circumstances, I think tonight's a perfect example, and this is a good thing because of, I believe, my personal opinion is that we as a council have become gun shy because of the number of open records requests and other things that we've just been gun shy to go out and post our thoughts onto the city message board. The result of that is that we have very vibrant discussions here in city council in front of all of you. So I'm not saying that we should be using it. I just wanted to have the discussion about the fact that we're not using it. But I really personally prefer the fact that we sit here and it's now 9 o'clock, but we have openly discussed a lot of things, and I'm proud to observe that. And I just wanted to throw that out because I've been asked by the public why we don't use it.
Mayor, may I? The genesis of this for me goes back probably close to 3 years. And Jennifer will remember, we probably started talking about this 3 years ago. And there was a lot of frustration, certainly on my part, at the pace at which that evolved. One of the things that I felt like was really important, if you go back and go to the city's website and go back 2 years or 3 years and you pull down a city council agenda, I like to say we spent about a third to half of our 1 hour once a month doing the 3 Ps. We prayed, we pledged, and we proclaimed. And the agendas were relatively short. By comparison, in the last year and a half, and that tonight's a good example, we routinely have 3 and 4 hour meetings, and some people may not like that, but we really only do it once a month. Okay. This is the highest governing body in the city, and the citizens deserve us to work for them. And this is what is working, is 3 and 4 and 5 hours with workshops and all. So I think one of the purposes of a message board for me was to push more transparency and more accountability among all of us. And I think that has naturally occurred. And I think everybody should get credit, including the city manager, for coming along with an expanded approach to openness and transparency. The one thing that this doesn't alleviate is our ability to talk amongst ourselves, which is really the essence of the open records and the open meetings restrictions that we all have. We benefit from hearing each other's ideas. Even though all of us think we have our own ideas and we think they're right, we always hear something that we didn't know or that we learned from someone else. And so the old adage that collaboration gives you better decisions, it gives you diversity of opinions, I think is true. And unfortunately, the only way we can do that is when we have an agenda and we all come together and do this in front of everybody. We really can't pick up the phone and call and talk to each other. And the message board is even a little bit, limited into what we should be able to say. So I think Councilmember Jameson is partly true. I think we're gun shy. But I also think that a lot of what was the original genesis of that has actually come about. And so I wouldn't be opposed to discontinuing it, provided that we continue this level of robust council meetings and transparency. Will it save us any money?
I believe $1,200 a year.
Okay. Well, it'll feed some cats over at the cemetery.
Okay, will you make a motion?
I'd be happy to save the 1,200. Go ahead, Councilperson Meek.
I make a motion that we discontinue use of the city council message board.
How about a second?
I'll second that motion.
A motion has been made and second. All in favor? Approved to discontinue. Number 23, discussion and action on entering into an interlocal agreement with TML for cyber liability and data breach response coverage.
Okay, Council Mayor, this is pretty self-explanatory. It's an insurance policy against cyber threats, ransomware, or any damage caused by such. The buy-up plan is $1,250 premium per year, but it will cover just about anything that could happen to us.
No brainer.
Yep.
Mayor can make a motion.
What you
Mayor,
say?
Give me a motion.
No, we just pay for it.
It's
a wash.
ironically, we're going to take the 1,250 we saved from discontinuing the message board, and I make the motion that we enter into an interlocal agreement with TML to acquire the cyber liability and data breach response coverage.
Although that wasn't the purpose of the previous item, I second that motion.
Motion been made and second. All in favor? Approved. Number 24, discussion and possible action on formula businesses in downtown.
Okay,
Manager?
Council and Mayor, a couple of months ago, we discussed, a citizen brought in the recommendation of creating a formula business, district and restricting those form of the business from opening. After consultation with Jason on this, there are two opinion letters that were sent regarding the topic. And basically, there are legal implications that must be vetted and addressed regarding any form of the business ordinance that you put into place. And the further recommendation is you make this part of the comprehensive plan. Each of you received those memos, and if Jason wants to expand upon that, he can, or if you'd like to discuss, back to you, Mayor.
Yeah, Jason, you want to come enlighten us?
City manager just discussed. These, the idea of the formula business regulations were brought to the city council by a citizens group. I produced a memo under my own letterhead back in April, and I produced another one under the letterhead of Ryan Henry's office last month. I don't know, recently, more recently. Yeah, May 2nd. Basically to the effect that this is a complicated issue. It deals with the dormant commerce clause. It deals with regulating entities by their very nature that have deep pockets. And so my advice is, yes, it can be done, but there are a lot of policy considerations that go into it. And as far as lawsuit proofing it, you really do want it to be part of your comprehensive plan, because under Texas law, all zoning regulations have to be adopted in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan. So that would be, if I'm going to challenge this ordinance, that would be something that I would be looking at as an opponent. And so, like I said, my recommendation is to include this as part of the comprehensive plan. That way, it's definitely going to be in conformance with it.
Mayor, how does your opinion differ if the way that we approached formula businesses in an overlay district or a designated area through design requirements, much like we do with long name and other, design regulated entities? Is it different?
So
we're not necessarily saying you can't have a Subway, but we're saying it's got to have a certain type of sign with certain exterior facade, things like that. Does that give us more legal safe harbor?
That's better.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's a better approach, and we already have those kinds of regulations in place. And so if that's an approach, then that's perhaps something that can be done outside the comprehensive plan, and really just, beefing up what we, using what we have. We do have a historic overlay district. I remember there was a district that was sort of proposed for this. But I don't know how well it coincides with our historic overlay district. So we have existing methods that these businesses are going to have to conform to.
What's the current status of the comprehensive planning process. And if I remember right, there was supposed to be intervals where there were presentations maybe made to the council. Can we get a date soon to get an update from the comprehensive plan on where we are to the council, and then maybe bring that up at that update where we give some direction as to whether we want this to be a design specification driven initiative for how we maintain the aesthetics of downtown versus business use?
Yeah, there's been
I know there's been some meetings.
some stakeholder meetings, and now there's subgroups meeting to address this very issue, land use, historic preservation. So that process is continuing. I'll be happy to have,
Who is there a chairman of the steering, is there a steering committee, and who's the chairman of the steering committee?
there's not a steering committee, but there's a stakeholder organization, and Langford comes in and runs the meetings, and the stakeholders participate. So there's no chairman of the of the stakeholder
So
themselves.
the process that they're using, at least so far, is a little different than what Langford described to us initially, which is you would have a steering committee with a chair, and that chair was a very, very pivotally important person because they organized all of the efforts. Is Langford serving that role?
They're serving that role, and then there's stakeholders, and you have your subcommittees, and you have the key participants, which are the city. So yes, they're fulfilling that role. Langford is.
This is almost an update in itself, but I've purposely not gone to those meetings, trying to not be a factor. And so I do appreciate
I'd like to get an update.
yeah.
Sooner rather
I
than
mean,
later.
I don't know if it
Just-
would take much more than what we just got, but I
yeah.
would love to hear.
You have a citizen who wants to comment if you want to recognize that. Yeah.
17th of, so next week?
July 17th is the next meeting,
It's not a stakeholder meeting, though. It's a subcommittee meeting, if I
the
correct.
subcommittee meeting on the 17th.
Well, maybe we just ask the city manager, since the city's kind of playing an integral role in the leadership of this stakeholders group, is to schedule something in the next 45 days, either at a workshop or at a council meeting or something where we get an update
I'll give you an update.
from the stakeholders group.
Yeah, or Langford.
Yeah,
Certainly.
just says kind of, here's the roadmap, here's a rough calendar, this is what we've accomplished so far, this is the direction we're going, maybe a 30-minute, just kind of.
So that's
This is where we
it's
are.
two separate issues. One would be a follow-up where we get that informational meeting discussed, and the other is, we need to take action on this tonight?
I mean,
Are
I
we
don't
got to
think we
table
have
until the
to.
comprehensive plan?
Yeah, I mean, I think the action.
Or no
I mean,
action?
No action.
Yeah, I don't think we have to take
Different
action on it.
information.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was just to
Everybody-
provide an update as to where we were. That was what the request
The
was.
formula business.
Yeah. I just think, did you get that just to provide an updated?
There you go, Jennifer. Cynthia, discussion and action on approval of financial report.
Bunch of, I'll get it.
I would just like to do it.
All right, you should have received in your packet the June financial report. As you can see, our revenues overall currently for the general and utility funds, and that is at $12 million of our $15 million budget. Again, everything's pretty well tracking where it is. General fund is looking good, and the utility fund continues to improve. Our reserves improved in the utility fund this month. If you look overall, general fund, like I said, is still looking good, and utility fund will continue to get where it needs to be, I believe, in the next couple of months. I don't know if y'all have any specific questions about the report.
I don't. The beauty of you being last is we don't ask too many questions.
I have a
No,
quick
I do.
question.
You go, but I have some.
The Hope Float sign 3680, that was, hot funds were used, but what does that cost for? Installation or?
The 36, it was actually for the
artwork.
the artwork.
The artwork and substrate that was purchased to put the sign up. And that is 100% refundable.
We've submitted for reimbursement from the chamber for that.
Thank you.
So under the cash balances and reserves, these invested funds, we have a capital replacement fund that's down over 50, it's down a lot. What is that line item? the capital replacement fund, how does that go down 320,000 in a year? Do we spend that money? That's the second, it's probably your third page. It's the cash balances and reserve. It shows the two columns. It looks like this.
Oh, the cash, the capital replacement fund? That's our our 22 tax note funds. That's where those funds were deposited. That fund that will eventually go down to zero as we expend those funds.
Okay, and then, the hot tax, we're not tracking as much as we did. We had budgeted 65. I know there's some issues around that. Is there anything you can report on Avenue and where we think we're going to be? We're
Couple of things.
75% through the year.
Yeah, a couple of things. The 78957, anyone from the chamber? Yeah, that's trigger's about to be pulled on that. So those monies will be spent accordingly. Short-term rentals, we're getting receipts in, still working on a completed list of those who haven't paid or registered. So that I anticipate will be 30 to 45 days out.
Is there any insight you can share about what the strategy is for going after those that haven't paid for a long, long time?
So what you can do, there's an audit function that Avenue Insights, if you request an audit of an individual who hasn't paid for quite some time and you want to go back and recapture that up to 4 years, I think we decided on 2. Doing the audit will give you the exact amount they owe, and then you can utilize that once this official audit is performed. You can hold them accountable. Either you pay or we'll put a lien on the property.
That audit's it's included in the contract.
It is now. It was not
So we
before.
just have to, okay. So we would just need to trigger it.
Correct. And it's a $750 fee to do the audit, but that gives you legal precedence to go after them. You
Does that-
couldn't
does
otherwise.
that require action on our part, or we
It does
just-
not.
I would think, I would like us to do that.
Is it possible to get, I'm still unclear exactly what, I know basically what Avenue Insights is doing for us, but what their specific roles are and what their budget is, and just a little more information on Avenue Insights?
Yeah,
I'm
certainly.
sure it's because I'm new, but
There's a lot more
I can
information now.
do this
available.
offline with you. I just didn't know if everyone was in the loop on that but me.
That has come up, so.
Yeah, we have 2 services. It's a sales tax that they make sure that the people that need to register and pay sales tax are doing so. When they find that, like for instance, I don't know, a new business starts up, they're not paying sales tax, they get 30% of that finding. And to date, that amount of money is about $1,100, not a lot. The other side of this is a short-term rental platform with which we just engaged last year ago, where we have the platform to track, what you saw here.
Yeah.
In addition, they're going after recapture recapture the people that haven't been paying, through the audit function. That's what they're doing for us as well. Okay. So it's the tool that we have developed that you can track, that you saw in the last workshop here, that we use, pretty frequently to see who's paying, what the list is, so forth and so on.
And again, they're not enforcement. We're the enforcement. They're just the facilitator, the collector of the money, and it's up to the city to do the enforcement portion.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Cynthia, on page 9, on the utility fund revenue recap, there's a category called miscellaneous sales and revenues. And their second line item, it says rent. And we had budgeted 27,000 and we've collected almost 76,000 year to date. What is that line item, rents?
It's actually the extra comes from AT&T, our joint use agreement we had with them. We found that they hadn't paid for several years, and so they've came back this year and they've paid it up, and they are now current.
Okay. All right.
That's where the extra.
That's
Because
from
there's
the-
another category for rents elsewhere. It has 0 budgeted or nothing, but it's a totally different rent. That's just where you put that
This
franchise.
rent line item is for joint use pole attachments with, there's 3 companies that we collect that from.
Interest income on the unused tax note. Are we recording that here or is that just separate because it's got to be spent specifically? Like on the unspent 3 million? What's left unspent? I know we're earning interest on that.
There should be the report in your
At
budget.
the very back, you should have that.
I put one of them on the 23 tax note and give it in every budget. It's probably separate from your notes,
Yeah.
in the notes section.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's not in the actual packet. I think.
I'll go find it.
It's in the reports part.
Thank you. I'll find it.
Be one, and it details what we've spent to date and how much.
Okay.
It's okay.
Motion?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the financial report.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Motion is approved. Thank you, Cynthia.
Wait.
What?
Yeah, I have a quick question. On the monthly report for the rec center, it shows revenue is down 50% year over year. Is our unit count, do we have a participant count KPI for that? And is it because we're charging less but we're still seeing as many or more people?
Can't answer the question.
Okay, all right, that's all right. It's just, we're down a lot year over year, and so I was wondering if it's because of usage or if we're charging less or.
Okay. Any other questions? Concerns?
Announcement.
Go ahead.
Okay, excuse me, the next budget workshop is going to be August 14th. Here and then followed by the 21st. So that's where the staff will present on the 14th, their plans, projects, and cost savings. In the meantime, if the council, if you have any other projects that your constituents would like for us to consider as a collaborative entity, please get them to me. What do we have next week?
We have Wednesday, we have a meeting here. on the-
Yes, I'm sorry. Very important meeting on this Wednesday, July 10th. We're going to have the results of the wastewater treatment facility expansion study. You know, where we're growing, you know, what our wastewater needs are going to be going forward. So if you can attend that, that starts at 5 o'clock here, 317 Main. See you then. This Wednesday, July 10th.
What other thoughts do you have?
We're good?
Good, good.
5 o'clock. That's 5 o'clock. Yeah.
We are